Hey, Jimmy. Something wrong with the reception?
Yeah.
Bed, son?
Yep, I'm all set, Dad. All set.
Yeah.
No. I think he's trying to watch some illegal channels here.
This is just bad reception, honey.
Respect my hairy ass.
What's that? Well, this is the female form. Look at the expression on her face. She's kind of looking right into your eyes, saying, "Hey, big boy. Hey, how you doing?"
There's gonna be an Eastern European chick naked in your house. And you're not gonna do anything about that?
What am I gonna do? Broadcast her over the internet?
Yeah.
That guy's in my trig class.
Oh no. Go, Trig boy. It's your birthday.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh. Houston, we have a problem. Oh no.
Friends call me Nova, as in Casanova.
You actually said that?
Yeah.
All that you gotta do is just ask them questions and listen to what they have to say and stuff. But no, man, that sounds like a lot of work.
Dude, chick's a MILF. The hell is that? MILF. Mom, I'd like to Yeah, dude.
Stifler's mom.
You trying to seduce me?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Oh, Mom?
What exactly does third base feel like?
Like warm apple pie.
Drip? Well, we'll just tell your mother that we ate it all.
Hey everyone, it's Jackson here, dropping in real quick just to share my thoughts on American Pie. So right quick, just to give you guys a little background with my experience in this franchise. It's not very deep. I had seen bits and pieces of the first few movies in the series while I was growing up during the 2000s and the 2010s. But this was my really first watch of the first movie in the series. I thought it was a great blend of raunchy comedy and feel-good high school drama, and was definitely bolder than some of the other late 90s teen comedies that we've been covering earlier in the year, many of which I've really liked, but American Pie definitely set itself apart from those. The cast I thought was pretty solid throughout, but the standout to me was definitely Chris Klein as Oz, who I just find him effortlessly funny, and we'd seen him earlier in the year in Election. I really loved him in that as well. All in all, it was a great time, and I think I would rank it somewhere about 3.5 out of 5 stars, which is pretty solid for me as far as teen comedies go. But that's it for me. I'll hand it back over to Gaius and Mark. Thanks, guys.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to Blockbuster with your hosts Gaius and Jackson. Although Jackson is not on with us today, he's busy doing some schooling that he needs to get done. Oddly enough, he will be recording with me later, but he wanted to get some extra stuff done to kind of get ahead of his school workflow. So he gave me actually permission to go on with our 25th anniversary American Pie episode, because I didn't want to do it without him. But he is kind of one of those people, like, for the greater good of the show, I don't want to slow down momentum. So if I can't be on, please go on without me, especially if you have someone great that can be on. And we do. From the Release Date Rewind podcast, you know him. I think you know him. Just go by Mark. I mean, as soon as you hear his voice, you'll know exactly who he is. He's known as one of our favorite guests that we have on, particularly for these type of movies. So I think Jackson felt like the episode would be in good hands with the both of us doing it. So
Aw. Wow, that's so nice. Yeah, Jackson's back at school with the boys from American Pie, learning how to do all sorts of things. No, that's cool. No, I'm so honored to be back. Thanks for having me, Gaius. And that's we were just saying offline a second ago. Last time was 10 Things. So we're just keeping. You were on my show at the start of this year for Varsity Blues and She's All That. So we're just we're just riding the 1999 teen movie train. I love it.
Yeah, and but I think between the both of us, we covered a lot. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, you did an episode for Varsity Blues and She's All That. You had my buddy David on that one, and that was fun. We did Varsity Blues. I didn't want to throw She's All That at Jackson, so I left that out. And it's really to like kind of map out the start, because like he didn't hate Varsity Blues, but he didn't like love it. But he found things to like enjoy about it. But I forgot what score he gave it. I think he gave like 2.5 out of. But his like 2.5 is like a. It's not like a really bad 2.5. Like he explained the scores pretty well. He's pretty tough on those movies. And then I think we got to what was it after that? I guess it would be Cruel Intentions. I think that might have came next for us. And he enjoyed that infinitely more than Varsity Blues.
amazing.
He didn't like
Yeah.
Selma Blair, but he did enjoy Sarah
Ah.
Michelle Gellar and Reese Witherspoon and Ryan Phillippe. So he did enjoy that one. Gave that a much better score than Varsity Blues. On 10 Things, he was surprised that he did like that. He was on the
Yeah.
you were on that episode and he
Mhm.
enjoyed it. He didn't know that it was an update of a Shakespeare play, so that
So
caught him off guard.
young. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I think we mentioned during that episode because I actually during the episode we talked about the reviews for these movies, and I was surprised. I remember I think American Pie getting much better reviews when I was younger.
Mhm.
But then even on that episode, I mentioned that 10 Things I Hate About You of the class of 1999 teen movies is the best reviewed of them.
Yeah.
American Pie has like a 62%, and I was like surprised that it was so low.
I'm
but some
actually
critics
hearing
would-
that now. I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised that's so high.
Some critics were turned off by the raunch, I guess. That was like one of the big bones of contention. But I think we mentioned on the 10 Things I told Jackson, I think we both did, that by the time that this one comes out, it feels like even though it is a teen film in the similar vein as like we got a bunch of them, it felt like these kind of movies started to change right when this came out. The other ones that we had gotten, like Can't Hardly Wait and 10 Things, even though there's some jokes or She's All That, there's jokes with like a little bit of edge, they still play it a bit safe, with the exception of Cruel Intentions. They're all PG-13,
Right.
and for the most part, so they have a little bit more of a wholesome quality, and American Pie certainly doesn't. I mean, it does have heart. I think I think that's what makes it a little bit better than
Oh yeah.
it just being like a gross out teen sex comedy. But we
Yeah.
hadn't had a movie like this in a really long time. I mean, there's a lot of comparisons to Porky's from the 80s, and
Totally.
the guy
Very
who
80s.
the guy who wrote it was very much inspired by that. And I think after you get American Pie, you transition into the whole road trip, and then subsequent sequels to
Oh
American
yeah,
Pie.
Road Trip.
Um,
And then yeah, you're right. That's really when Sean William Scott like totally took off. Like
Yeah.
we met him in this one, and you're right, Road Trip, and then Final Destination, and then Dude, Where's My Car? Like it's funny how
yeah.
looking back, like some of the guys, some of the cast really took off. The women kind of all became
That's gonna be-
popular for different things, but some of the guys, like Chris Klein, Thomas Ian Nicholas, like they sort of took a turn, but yeah, it's just funny to see like how this really put some of them on the map and then where they went, from there.
Yeah, and, and something quickly. I mean, Jason Biggs quickly started. I mean, not all of them were successful, but he quickly led a lot of similar-ish movies down the line.
Yep.
I mean, I totally forgot he was in Boys and Girls. My friend mentioned that.
Yep.
And Mita Suvari is
Yeah.
also in that, and
Uh-huh.
and like Loser, like they all kind of like
Loser.
did different movies. And Allison Hannigan had Buffy at this time, so she was fairly.
yeah.
I guess, is she the biggest like name amongst the young set in this
That's
movie?
a good question
I mean-
because yeah, I mean at least
Maybe Tara
fame wise
Reid?
at the time, Tara
Yeah.
Reid, but like Tara had her small like right before this, she had her smaller great role in Cruel Intentions, and then Urban Legend is how
Urban
I
Legend,
knew
yeah.
her more, but she
Right.
still wasn't like. I think this kind of helped really propel her into like Tara Reid, even though it's funny
Yeah.
out of the girls, she's in it more than like Natasha Lyonne, and I guess more than Shannon Elizabeth, but she's actually she doesn't have a ton to do, in my opinion. I'm sort of surprised that
Well,
she's just like, I'm not ready yet, and that's like her
Yeah.
storyline.
Well, this is going to be
But-
something I think we can get into when we talk more about the plot, because
Yeah.
my friend Kayla, her sometimes when she hears what movies we're going to talk about, she's like, "Oh well, I can't be on, but let me tell you my issue with X, Y, and Z." And her issue with this movie, and even more so with its immediate sequels, at least some of them, she's like, I get it. It's written by a guy, so it's probably going to be a boy story anyway. But she's like, it feels like the girls are just kind of window dressing and don't do much. And
Yeah, it's very
and
much
that is, and that's even
Yeah.
more obvious in like American Pie 2. I mean, like they just kind of bring something back just to. They don't even have a lot of screen time. Some of the girls in the second one, they try
That's
to make up for it.
interesting.
I think down the line with like in Wedding and Reunion with some of them.
in Reunion.
Yeah,
I've
but,
seen
like,
all of them, but I've only seen the first one the most. Like I've
Yeah.
seen I basically have seen not the first one, but 2, 3, and 4 all in the theaters. But I don't know. They're always so fun, and I'm always intrigued. Not like the like straight to DVD or streaming ones,
No,
like
yeah,
Bandcamp or whatever. Like I've never dipped my toe in those. But
yeah,
yeah, like with the main cast, there's such good chemistry, and I just love how like the movies always have such great marketing with like the post. Like I used to, even though I don't love this movie like as much as others we've talked about, I
yeah.
loved having the poster on my wall growing up of like all of them. So I always
Having
liked
fun.
how yeah, the posters were always really memorable for me, like, just seeing the full cast, much like 10 Things that we talked about with
Yeah,
the lineup,
yeah,
this was the era of, like, showing pretty much all of your cast on the poster, and maybe Scream started that with, like, at least, like, highlight cast members, and then they just
yeah.
expanded it. But, yeah, so I've always been intrigued, but I don't really remember the sequels that much at all. I remember I liked 2. I pretty much have liked all of them, but
I've liked all
I
of them
wasn't able
for
to
the most part.
rewatch before we talked, so,
Yeah, I mean, I've
I
liked all
couldn't
of
tell
them,
you what
but
really happened.
I think
Yeah.
the thing with all of them, even if they might be lesser than the first one, I've always felt like what they've gotten right is that you feel like you're just kind of reuniting with friends every time you watch
Mm,
it. So like the
mhm.
characters are really familiar and they're fun and they're likable.
Yeah.
Even someone like Stifler, who starts off as in this first movie as a total asshole, not really part of the core group. He just kind of
Right.
his closest connection is like basically Oz, and they play lacrosse together. But
Right.
like as the movies go on, though, they even give him a heart, and you kind of realize that he's their friend too,
Totally.
even like begrudgingly, but he's still like their buddy as well. So
And I
like,
wonder how much of that is because of Milf and Stifler's mom being such a
yeah,
thing from the first one, like, I wonder if
yeah,
that part didn't take off so much. I just wonder, like, would Stifler have become such a part of the group, or would he just kind of always be around as like a side character just popping in, popping out? So
yeah.
I just wonder, like, yeah, were some ideas brought on in sequels because of how beloved like he was, or like how Nadia was, or characters that maybe didn't really need to come back?
Yeah,
I just
because
wonder.
Nadia, unless you have like one of the Blu-rays, Nadia didn't even make the first poster with the rest of the cast. Like
Right,
they
exactly.
have subsequently like added her image onto like different
Uh-huh.
editions of the
She
Blu-ray and
wasn't in
stuff.
my
But
poster on my wall. Uh-huh, you're right.
she wasn't on it, and considering what she had, her big scene is. I'm trying. I had to look at it through a 1999 lens and then a today's lens, which is so
Yeah,
like it's
quite
pretty
different.
problematic
Uh-huh.
now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still a big moment for her. And honestly, I mean, Shannon Elizabeth go on to show that she has comedic chops. Like I think the following
Mhm.
year when she did Scary Movie, right? So
Oh
like
my god, yeah.
she's certainly pretty funny and like in those and but like I do get what my friend was saying about the girls. It seems like some of them don't
Oh,
really
yeah.
have a lot of you know
Yeah.
not a lot of like character development beyond
Yeah.
you know
Even
what the
as a
plot needs
kid,
them to
like,
do.
even yeah, totally. Even watching this, back in 1999, I didn't see this in theaters, did you?
I did.
Oh, wow, look at
There's a lot of
you.
there's a lot of maneuvering to get this one in
Oh,
because
yeah.
we couldn't just walk up and like act like we were just old enough to go.
Right, yeah.
My cousin was in the town the weekend this opened, and he took us all to go see it.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
much to I think my mother's dismay at the time because like she was like whoa because she saw trailers for it and stuff like that, and then she found out he took us, and she's like I think she was more mad that he took my other friends, so she's like I am not their mother, I don't even know if they're allowed
Oh,
to see
yeah.
this.
Well, you
Jesus,
wanna hear
but
something awkward? I missed this in theaters. I mean, I was what was I, 12? I wasn't yet 13, so I knew about it, but I think I just knew, like, "Alright, I'll just catch that. Yeah, I'll rent it or something," right? So a
yeah,
few
yeah.
months later, maybe 6 months later or something, rented it, and I remember wanting to watch it, like, alone at home, but somehow I ended up watching it with my parents. My mom on my right, my dad on my left, and this is still to this day not a movie I want to watch with them. I mean, the things
Nope.
that were shown, and then my mom critiquing, and oh my god, I don't even want to say some of the things she said, but she just I'll just say the scene. She's gonna kill me. The scene early on when Tara Reid is going down on Thomas Ian Nicholas, and
Yeah,
he
right,
grabs
right.
the cup of beer, right?
Yeah,
And then Stifler's whole moment, drinking it and
yeah.
puking, and it's disgusting. It's a gross out moment. My mom, and I'm only 12, and my mom goes like, "Oh, see, let that be a lesson. Don't come in the cup. And I was like, oh my God. And my mom is
Jesus.
like a lady. Like she is not
Yeah.
real raunchy, but she always did say like I always acted and looked older than I really did. So maybe she thought I was like a few years older. But I
One of
remember
her-
I
one of
just
her peers.
screamed at her. I like paused and I said, get out. You got to get out. And I think I just took over the living room. I'm like, go upstairs. I'll let you know when it's done. You cannot stay here. That is disgusting. So sorry, everyone, if I just grossed you out. But yeah, so I watched this with my parents, which was not ideal. But, you know, at least a lot of it is gross out funny that like
Yeah,
you
it's
can't
not too.
with them.
Yeah,
But some of those
yeah.
sexual jokes and some of the sites, you're like, oh my God, you know, just cringing the whole time. So,
Yeah.
you know, but still fun.
Still fun. So for people that don't know, the story is very simple. It follows a group of high school classmates who make a pact to lose their virginity before they graduate. Very simple
Mhm.
plot. The cast is stacked with names you might recognize now: Jason Biggs, Chris Klein, Allison Hannigan, Natasha Lyonne, Thomas E. Nicholas, Tara Reid, Mina Suvari, Eddie K. Thomas, Sean William Scott, Eugene Levy, Shannon Elizabeth, and Jennifer Coolidge. And I could just throw in like the John Cho is in this too. There's a bunch of other like
Yes.
random people that kind of just show up.
The
in
Pube
this movie.
Pizza guy from She's All That. He's in
That
this.
yeah,
I forget his name.
the Shermanator.
German. Yes.
The Terminator. Yeah,
He's back. Mhm.
He's back. This movie only cost $10 million to make, but made $235.5 million worldwide.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm wondering how this caught on overseas, man. Like,
Oh
how
my
did this
God.
become a big one? But yeah, became one of the surprise hits of 1999. And especially during that summer of 1999. Like we said before, it did have polarizing reviews from critics when it came out, but they said that retrospective critical analysis has placed American Pie among the greatest teen films, and it also spawned the franchise, including American Pie 2, American Wedding, and American Reunion, and direct-to-DVD films American Pie presents Bandcamp, The Naked Mile, Better House, The Book of Love, and Girls Rules. I haven't seen
Wow.
any of the direct-to-DVD ones, so I couldn't comment on them whatsoever. I
I'm-
think they
I'm
follow
sure,
like
you know what?
Stifler's brother, right? Like that's like,
Yeah.
isn't that
I think
yeah,
from what I remember, and I feel like Eugene Levy was in a couple of them. I
a couple
feel
of
like
them. I think he might have
right?
been Paycheck.
Maybe not in all of them, but yeah, I'm sure he was like the only one from the theatrical movies, maybe besides if they really brought back Stifler's brother, that actor. But yeah, I've never seen them. But you know, they don't look as bad as, in my opinion, like the Bring It Ons or the Wrong
Oh,
Turns
yeah.
that were like straight to DVD, straight to whatever. Like these did look at least similar in quality. It's just like,
Yeah.
you know, the like you said, like you just listed so many great actors. The cast has such great chemistry that it's like if like half of them aren't in it, then I'm just gonna
Yeah.
stick with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, and a lot of them at the time, not big names at all. Sean William Scott
Mhm.
said he was working at Home Depot when he got American
Yeah.
Pie.
Yeah.
You know, you might remember Thomas E. Nicholas from Rookie of the Year. So he's a
I was gonna
child
say
actor.
the only people
Um,
I think I really knew, yeah, were Thomas Ian Nicholas and of course our girl Allison Hannigan. Because you're right, she was probably the busiest of the bunch with Buffy,
Yeah.
and then yeah, maybe Tara Reid. But like Mina Suvari was pretty new. It's funny because she and Eddie K. Thomas were just in The Rage Carrie 2 a couple months earlier, which is
Oh,
a little
that's
guilty
right.
pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah,
They play like
yeah, I didn't.
supporting roles in that
We
one.
we didn't get to anniversary of that one, but I did watch it just for fun or rewatch it for
Yeah.
fun. And
You know, it's actually
it's
not as
good.
It's
But
it's
not as
not
bad
it's
as I
not like
remember.
a great movie, but it was way better than I thought it would be because I hadn't watched that in years and years and years.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, there was something to be said with The Rage Carrie 2 for sure. It's a forgotten
Yeah.
one, but not the worst thing you'll see today. So there you go.
Sure. Also, another bad year for Mia Suvari too. Where she's in that, she's in American Pie, and then she's in American Beauty, also in 1999. So this was a pretty sizable year for
She was
her.
busy.
Chris Klein had done an election. I think that was like
Oh.
the only thing he had done prior to this, and he kind
Yeah,
of
he was
brings that
so
kind of
new.
that he brings that kind of same kind of odd Chuck's kind of befuddled.
What a
charm to
great
this
little
part,
double
too.
feature for him, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's basically the same character, but I really like Oz. And I just have to say, I mean, sorry, anyone who isn't queer, but like, man, oh my God, Chris Klein was such a beautiful guy. Oh my God. I've always had a crush on Sean William Scott. Like, he is such a babe, so funny. But like, rewatching, oh my God, Chris Klein is like unreal. His skin, his hair is always slicked back and wet. I'm like, how do you do that? I just have to like, I totally have to praise Chris Klein. Like he is perfectly cast because he looks like those pretty jock guys in everyone's high school that just, it's like, how do you look like that? And he seems so cool, you know? So he's so good in this. I forgot how much he actually has to do with the whole, like, you know, before Glee, singing and sports and all that stuff. Yeah.
And I actually think of all the guys, that he has the best overall, I guess, arc of them, of all the main dudes. Because I actually didn't realize until I watched it for this that I was pretty invested in his relationship or potential relationship with Heather. Like it's like it's the cutest thing in the movie. It's not played for like, you know, raunchy anything at all.
Right.
You know, the closest thing to her, and like when she catches on that, like when they're kind of making those kind of jokes when she goes to ask him to prom at the lacrosse game, and she can see from a distance that it looks like they're making fun of the fact that he might have sex with her. That's like the closest thing that comes to like anything raunchy with them. And then she's mad for a scene, and then I think she realizes his heart's in the right place, and then of course they throw it back at him like, oh, well, your game's on the same day as this like choir thing you just go to, and then he's like, oh, so I got to go to the game, and he disappoints her, and then of course he shows up and realizes the right thing. Like, so it's a really nice little cute relationship, and I think they have really good chemistry, and like just sweet. You don't get a lot of that sweetness in it. Really good.
Because like sometimes she's, in my opinion, sorry for the Mina fans listening, but like sometimes Mina is not so good, but like I forgot that like she's very believable in like her snark, you know, when she's like upset with him. She's very believable to me, you know. I mean, they all are really good. I mean, Natasha Lyonne steals her scenes, and if anything, I'm like, I understand why we didn't, but like how fun would it have been if like we got a Natasha Lyonne spin-off of the American Pie movies? Because like she's just so interesting. She's like the wise one. I feel like she's not sexy, but she's knowledgeable. Like, the girls, I totally understand what your friend means, because it's very much all about the guys. They are our lead characters. It's their journey. But the girls are definitely, you know, not just two-dimensional. Like they got some good little things to do, just maybe not enough, you know. But Mina does well with what she's got.
Yeah, I mean, you believe her as like kind of cute, innocent choir girl. And,
I love when she gives him attitude, like when he, you know, signs up for the solo with her for the song, and she's like, you need to practice, you can't just like wing it or whatever. Like I'm okay, do not mess with choir girl, you know.
Like, where'd that come from?
She's like free Leah Michelle.
I had to piggyback on what you said about Natasha Lyonne, who I think this is actually going to be true for like most of the characters in this movie. I actually can picture so many people I went to high school with in some of these characters, and we definitely had girlfriends that were wise beyond their years, and that's like the Natasha Lyonne character in this. And it does seem like she is in her own kind of movie at times, but it's a fun one where like she doesn't even seem like she should be in high school. Like she should be like college or something like that.
Doesn't she kind of seem like the wise oracle? She's already like been to, like, she started college or something. She's about to like light up a cigarette. She just seems like way too cool for these kids, you know?
Yeah, I mean, because the way she's like talking to Vicky, I mean, it was clear that she's already had sex. She's already had an orgasm. Like, that's why she's like, how come you haven't had one yet? Or do you know if you had one? And she's kind of like, oh, I don't know. And it's kind of like, and she, you know, that she asked her like, if she had one manually, and she's like, oh, I've never done that. And she's like, you've never double clicked your mouse, which I
wrote that line down.
Ever in life.
So funny.
Ever in life. But you could tell there's experience there. And then like, also, I love how she has that experience with her friend who she's trying to help, but then she also is trying to help out Finch and kind of give him a better like reputation, so he can maybe get a date to the prom. So she's the one that kind of starts the stories about, you know, him being so legendary in a lot of areas. So like, I don't know, she's a fun character that I wish she had more to do. I mean, when I watched it for this, she was in more scenes than I remembered, but still not enough for me. That character, like if I was writing that movie, I would realize that character was cool. Maybe you don't really realize it until you cast the right person, but that character is a lot funnier and really deserved more screen time. Or her own story. I mean, I guess that's the other thing about the girls too. They don't really have their, I mean, I guess like, because point to her specifically, she doesn't really have her own story. She's just, you know,
we don't really know what she wants. Yeah,
Right.
we don't really know,
You get
like, where she comes from or anything, yeah, or any of her little
right.
problems, even if it was something dumb or stupid, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But she plays it so well, and, yeah, I could almost see her like, I if the movie was a little bit different or made today, like, she'd, like she I forget her character's name, I can't even remember what her name is, but
Her
is it
Jessica.
Vicky?
Jessica.
No, Jessica,
Vicky's
Vicky's, Tara
Vicky's
Reid.
Tara Reid. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
But I could see, like, Jessica, like, taking over, like, the teacher's lounge at certain points of the
Yeah,
day
yeah,
and being
yeah,
like, "All right,
yeah.
come on into my office, like, I'll help you, learn what a clitoris is," or I don't know, something crazy,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
I could just see her, like or, like, sitting in her car, like, almost like Zeke in The Faculty, Josh Hartnett,
Yeah,
which,
yeah,
like, almost like that, but not a druggie, but just like, the wise
yeah.
one, teach me,
The wise one.
you know
He had more like a burnout edge than she does. She at
Yes.
least like looks like she has her like life in order.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
She's just lived. She's just lived a lot
Yes.
for
Uh-huh.
however old she is, like what 17, 18 in the movie. So
Right.
I mean, but yeah, that was just a fun character, and I think that's just also naturally Natasha Lyonne's personality. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not
really
gonna say that
shines
like.
through.
I mean, that's like you can just tell that's just who she is. Like, just interviews I've seen with her recently and stuff like that. Like, she's always been kind of sarcastic and worldly and
Yeah.
quick-witted. Like, that's just
Oh,
her.
yeah. Yeah.
And I wonder how much of that is just what she brought to the part. Like, if the part, I mean, I know she said that she actually wanted Allison Hannigan's role. That's what she kind of went for. And they said that
Yeah, I
she
did see that. Yeah,
and
that
that they
clip.
said they told her that she wasn't dorky enough for that. So she was like, all right. And then so they told her
Right.
to read for Jessica, and she got that. I
Yeah,
can't see anyone else back.
You just
I
reminded
mean,
me they were like there was an old clip, or I think it was an old clip of them on Howard Stern, and it was the girls, and
yeah,
Allison Hannigan, I think, said something that upset Natasha Lyonne. I can't remember what it was now, but it was an interesting little real moment where I think they were like, "Yeah, we all were up for this role except for Natasha," and Natasha was like, "Excuse me?" Like, or something,
yeah.
like, kind of like almost like saying without saying it, like Natasha wasn't, like, considered sexy enough for that or something.
Right.
But either way, she stands out on her own. It's kind of a great honestly, if I was Natasha Lyonne, if I was, like, a young woman at that time, that's one of the most fun roles, I think, of the movie, more fun, in my opinion, than, like, Mina Suvari, maybe even Tara Reid. I don't know. It's just fun to kinda see a different kinda girl who
Yeah,
can be so kinda, like, no bullshit, you know?
yeah. I think that's the kind of role maybe that you realize was perfect for you, like later. Like maybe like in the
Yeah.
moment, you're like, oh, I wish I was in a little bit more like the other girls, or like had
Yeah,
more to
true.
do. But I think down the line, like people remember her
Yeah,
the most
because you're
amongst
right,
the
like,
girls.
she was not in that, like, famous photo shoot that I love. I posted it on my page for the movie's
Yeah,
anniversary of, like, it's Jason Biggs, it's everyone in, like, their USA bathing suits,
yeah.
and it's the 4 girls, Tara, Allison, Mina, and Shannon with Jason Biggs, so none of the guys
Yeah,
and no, not Natasha Lyonne. So, yeah, I
yeah,
wonder if she's, like I mean, she seems so cool and so, kind of, like, comfortable with herself that I hope she wasn't,
yeah.
like, bummed, but other young women might be like, "Alright, I'm the only, like, woman in the movie that isn't part of that photo shoot. Meh,"
Part of
you
it.
know?
Yeah. Well, at least she made the
So
poster.
yeah,
She did.
absolutely, she's in it, and
I like.
I love her face on the poster. She's, like, kind of,
Yeah,
like, like, dead center right next to Jason Biggs, just giving this, like, smirk,
like
like
smirk.
totally.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, Tara Reid is on the poster is channeling, I think, her inner Tara Reid. I mean, like, I've met her one time in Hermosa
Oh,
Beach
yeah?
down here during the 4th of
Wow.
July. So this was a few years after I graduated high school, so maybe 2003 or four, somewhere in there.
Wow.
And she was having a good time. Like on the 4th of July, you like walk the Strand, and there's like all these house parties, and it's pretty much an open invite. If you're walking,
Wow.
unless you're underage, like because some people underage will try to get in. They're like, oh no, you look like you're all of 12, like go away.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but we ran into her, and she was having not in a like mean sloppy kind of way, but you could tell that she was having a good time, and I think she's had
Okay.
a reputation for being that girl, a party
I
girl.
mean, there's a
Um,
reason, her voice got deeper and deeper and deeper because,
deeper, yeah,
she's just drinking and screaming and, having
yeah,
fun. So,
yeah.
yeah, totally.
But I do it like that. What I do think is interesting is knowing that about her and having seen it and having heard about other stories and like seen her in the media.
Mm.
Her role here is like the complete opposite of that. Like really, sweet and
Yeah.
innocent in a different way than Mina Savari's character is. Like,
Right.
but still, like, not no shades of like Tara Reid, the personality that we kind of
Yeah,
know.
she's not.
And
You're so right.
in this
It's
part,
funny to see her be actually pretty, like, pure and, like,
yeah,
sweet and a little traditional and, like, not dumb, but,
yeah,
very quick to, like, get offended and, like, she's very much like a girl, which is so interesting because even,
yeah,
like, Urban Legend, no way, she was, like, sex positive with her radio show.
yeah,
She's, like, cool, so yeah, it's funny because sometimes Tara Reid doesn't get the, recognition for actually having some range that,
yeah,
like she should maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And then like her relationship in the movie with Kevin
Right.
uh
Mhm.
probably mirrors a lot of their, like, especially when I was in high school, like we knew a lot of people that were the Kevins of the group and the Vickies of the group
Mhm.
who are in this kind of like long termish relationship, and they hadn't done anything like that yet. So they were like trying to plan on like
Right.
when they were going to have sex for the first time. There was like, so I saw a
Prom,
lot.
prom
Yeah,
night.
yeah.
Oh my
And
god.
honestly, it's so funny because like it seems like such a cliche thing to throw in movies, but that is true for a lot of people. Like it's such a big night and rite of passage for high school students because it's on the
Yeah.
cusp of them maybe like their last big thing before graduation, before they leave.
Right.
So especially for couples. So like I get,
Yeah.
I mean, even though I want to laugh and scoff, like of course they want to have this like done on prom night, but
I know.
it's not too far. It's not too far off from real life though. At
Yeah.
all.
Oh, no, not at all, not at all. It's funny because like kids today are so smart. So I can't even say, but even by the time like you and I were in high school in the early 2000s, like, I don't know. I mean, I did not, I was late. I was a later, I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but I was like, sexual throughout high
Yeah,
school. I was doing some things, but not all the way. That was later. Like I was
yeah,
late to the game on that. But like I even as a high schooler, I was just like, oh what? Like really you're gonna lose your virginity on prom night? Wow,
yeah,
groundbreaking. Like how many
yeah,
movies
yeah.
have you seen that so even back then it was sort of like, okay, sure. Like I just wonder like how many movies did kids watch and they're like, okay, I guess I need to do it by prom
Yeah.
night, and what was actually just talked about via friends and what did you see in pop culture that was like, oh, this is senior year
That
prom
made
night,
it
like
the thing. Yeah,
you got to do it by then, yeah. So
yeah.
all the pressures.
Um, all the pressures. I'll circle back to that couple in just a second, but I do want to, since he is, I guess, our star of the ensemble, Jason Biggs is Jim.
Yeah.
What do you think about him? How, I mean, I think what I picked up this time from watching it is guy has really good comedic improvisational skills. Because I didn't know this
So good.
until way later that a lot of the stuff he does with Eugene Levy is mostly improvised. Like they just kind of
Really?
were riffing
Wow.
a lot of the bedroom stuff where he's talking to him about sex and masturbation, all that stuff. Like it's just them winging it. They give him a general idea of what the scene would be, and they just riffs. And there, I guess
Wow.
there's a lot of outtakes on the Blu-ray where there's so much stuff that he says that just didn't make the movie. But like I
Now
wonder if
that
they were
you
just
say
like,
that,
oh, we have a gold
I
mine to
feel
like pick
like
from.
yeah, wow. I mean, with Eugene Levy, I mean, oh my god, it
Yeah,
makes total sense to and like especially and Jennifer Coolidge, this was before
yeah,
she was as huge as she is now, but like, yeah, you
yeah.
have some major comic geniuses playing those parents. I hope they just let them play and just keep the
Right.
camera rolling, right? Wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah, Jason Biggs is really good in this. And of course remembered he was, but like for being an unknown, we hadn't
Yeah.
seen it and he's so real. Like he not that he's not attractive at all, but like, he kind of looks like a normal average kind of nerdy guy who's who can get it, but like maybe just not as easy as the Chris
Just,
Kleins,
just, just doesn't know quite
So
how yet.
really good casting, really good,
Yeah,
you know.
and kudos to him because he has to. I mean, the movie starts off with him like like
Oh
just
my god.
potential embarrassment. So like, I mean,
Uh-huh.
he has to be okay with like being the butt of the joke, and he
Oh my
is
god.
clearly okay
Yeah.
with it. And he goes
Yeah.
full out and understand. I mean, I remember even in theaters during that opening scene, like the I got Total Recall watching it for this, where I can remember how the theater reacted when we saw it.
Oh yeah.
And just like there's this uproarious laughter, and some of it's like uncomfortable laughter too, because it's like you almost get like secondhand embarrassment watching a lot of it.
Oh yeah. Oh
But
god.
like, I mean, but for you to start and also I don't think I'd ever seen a movie aimed at people my age that started that way. Like,
Oh, I
at that
know.
my
I
point
mean,
in time, where
you
I was just
know,
like,
I kind of,
we had
I
just
for-
saw Cruel Intentions in March, but that was like different. That was like a heightened, like almost soap
well,
opera-ish kind of like high
yeah.
school
What
experience.
what makes Cruel Intentions so shocking is how adult they all are for
Oh,
being
right.
like 17, you know, but it makes sense because they're rich and they have this lifestyle that like they just have grown up so fast. But here,
Yeah.
yeah, what makes it so shocking is like how totally like it's not holding back and it's also very realistic. I mean, it's a super silly movie, but I mean,
Right, yeah.
we all watched like porn on our TVs in our rooms like via
Yeah.
like crappy quality like without cable in there, right? I mean,
And you can't like
I'll
turn it
admit
off, which is hilarious.
parents
Like
have
when you're trying to like turn
oh
off
god.
stuff and you
Yeah,
just can't get yeah, that whole thing was
right?
just funny. And he's just trying to like talk over it and like get them out the
Oh my
room and
god.
like
And then what is that? And then the guy in the movie says, "Spank my hairy ass." Oh my
and
and
the
then his
dad is
owner, I
reacting.
mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
completely
that yeah,
forgot. Gaius, like, yeah, like, whoa, okay, the movie is starting, and it felt very There's Something About Mary, which came out the year
yeah,
before,
yeah.
but like, whoa, we already have like a fake hard penis, you know,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
actually seeing it, but like the outline, and it's like,
Fir-
oh
First
wow,
few
the
minutes of
movie
the
has
movie.
begun. Whoa, you know, and it's so cringe. I mean, luckily, no moments like that were ever that cringe for me, but I'll be honest, my parents have walked in on me in the past, you know, just exploring, and I'm like, oh my god, and it's terrible. It's awful.
Yeah, it's
So
awful.
I feel for Jim, you know?
Yeah, you do,
I
and I
get it.
think that's what makes that character work so well. Is that he's very much an everyman, so you understand it, and like I mean, like and I
Absolutely.
think and I think you said like actually it's true. All the actors, I think they cast them all well, looks wise. They
Yeah,
don't all necessarily look like movie stars, and like
right.
I mean, I think that's I mean, the guys. I mean, the closest one that kind of. I mean, you said that about Chris Klein, but even that
Yeah,
looks realistic to me for like the role that
right.
he was intended to play. And
Yep.
I've known so many Stiflers who still act like Stiflers today. So
Yeah.
that character is
Ugh,
ingrained in my brain, and like they kind of look like him, and honestly, in the same way that I mentioned that character does develop like a heart over time, those people that
right.
I knew that were like that were kind of brash a bit and like did those things, but deep down, once you like kind of like talk to them for like longer than 10 minutes, they're like, oh, you got feelings too, apparently. I had no idea.
Right.
Like
I know
you
what you
never like
mean. I totally know
yeah.
what you mean. Yeah, it's like, oh, you're not just like constantly I don't want to say a dick because, like, you know,
Yeah,
Stifler isn't that bad. Like, half the time I am laughing with him. But yeah, then there's that portion there where
yeah,
you're like, oh my God, you would have made like my day so crappy back then, you know? So
yeah,
yeah, it's like, yeah, you are more than just like constantly pushing people's buttons. Like, oh, okay, you do have like a normal moment,
yeah.
you know? He just doesn't really have any in this first movie, at least, you know?
No, that you don't really get hints of it. I think it's the second one where I
Right.
didn't agree with you. I think what you said was right. Is that if they're gonna keep him around, do they keep him around just as a dick? Because like they every movie kind of needs a villain, I guess, or someone that's like
Yeah.
not nice. But I think the audience liked him a lot,
Yeah.
and like, how do you maintain like keeping like what they loved about him in that first movie, but also allowing that character to grow if he's going to be around for
Right.
subsequent sequels? And I think they did find a
Right.
way to kind of work in like a personality, and that eventually he kind of looked at them as like, even though he would make fun of them, he was like all out of love eventually.
Right. Yeah. Cause,
Um,
because if he's not going to change at all, even just a little bit, that would get old, you know,
yeah,
by the third movie. You know what I mean? So there's got
yeah,
to be something. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's a good villain. He stirs the pot. He's their friend when they need him to be a friend, but then he like, you know, with what he does to
yeah, they're still
Finch
going to
and
his part. They still going to his parties.
yeah,
I mean, I guess but we also had
right.
friends like that too that I couldn't stand in high school. But they're like, well, we got to go. Everyone's going, so like we got it. Like
That's
that's
so
how you do
funny. Oh my god. Yeah. But I would say, yeah, Stifler, like Sean William Scott and Allison Hannigan, for me, they are the boy and girl MVPs of the movie, where I feel like when you think of American Pie, I don't know, besides Jason Biggs, of course, the lead, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Shannon Elizabeth, but like those two, I feel like have memorable lines, names, moments, you know, like I just feel like
yeah.
you can't have a movie without those two, you know,
No,
because of
I
what they
agree. I
bring.
mean, and I think most people would agree that they were both like the brick. And the cool thing about Austin Hannigan is like she's funny in a dorky kind of way, but I mean, I love that they save her big moments towards the end of the movie. Like
Oh
it's
my
built
god,
like
and it's
you know,
I knew it was coming towards the end, you know, like because it
yeah,
doesn't happen until prom and not until the party. But like I mean, there's only like 5 minutes left of the movie, and like that's when we realize the real Michelle, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
that is a really fun reveal. So she, like, you know, like what we're saying, she might not have much to do, but whoa, when we get there, oh my God, I just
Yeah.
remember jaw dropping, you know, because it's more than
Yeah.
though this one time at band camp, you know, with what she's doing with her, you know, but then also
Yeah.
when they like get it on and she says, "What's my name, bitch?" And,
Name, bitch. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I just remember like, wow, we were laughing. So yeah,
it was
she
hilarious.
steals it. Mhm.
And honestly, it's hard not to think about the follow-ups because like there's these evolution of these relationships too. Like how I love how it starts here, and he kind of like, you know, in the beginning of the movie would rather, you know, you see someone like Nadia and he's like, oh, that's kind of like the girl he wants to try to have sex
Totally.
with. And then like, you know, her character asking him the problems almost like an afterthought. It's almost like, oh, I don't got anything else. I guess I'll go with you. And he kind of
Right.
treats her like that for like the majority of the movie. But then like it's so cool that in the subsequent movies they actually formed a like relationship that meant something and they got married and
Yeah.
like, you know, like so it is nice to see where these relationships started and then how they were able
Yeah.
to evolve them down the line to
It's
something that
pretty
was like
crazy.
significant.
Totally. It's pretty crazy. Like, just take the Buffy out of it, but like just seeing Allison Hannigan, who's super cute, but like not as sexy, quote unquote,
Right.
you know, back then as the other women, right? And
Right.
she's definitely a more supporting role. But then all of a sudden, she's like, you know, because of the progression of the relationship with Jim throughout the movies, she's like our lead female, you know, basically. And it's because Jim is our lead guy that by default, like I mean, from what I remember in American Wedding, the third one, I don't even think any of the other girls are in that one, are they? Or am I
A
wrong?
lot of them are gone. Actually, I
Yeah.
think I had it pulled up early. A lot of them don't show up in that one.
Right.
And I think they
That
tried,
one's
and I
most
think
of
they
the
tried
guys
to
and Allison.
they tried to
right?
rectify that with American Reunion, even if they give them like smaller, like
Yep.
tinier parts. Um,
Yep.
But yeah, they
Yeah.
said in American Wedding, notably absent are Chris Klein, Mina Suvari, Tara Reid, and others. Shannon Elizabeth also is missing from that movie as
Oh
well.
wow, I forgot Chris Klein isn't in that one. Wow.
Yeah,
I'm
they
gonna look
bring
at
it
the
back for a
poster right now.
reunion. And
That's
you know,
so weird that he was missing. Do we know why? That's so
I'm not
strange.
sure. Like, it's so weird when you get to like, I'm looking at the poster for American Pie 2, right? And they got everyone back. But then I
Yes.
realized, but I think I remember reading interviews at the time, the way that it's mostly the women, how they were using it when it came to like doing more of them. I don't think they really felt that they were regarded as necessary to like the plot of those
Mm.
movies, especially, you know, like I feel like someone like Vicky should have been more prominent in the second one. She really isn't. Like if you rewatch it, like she's not really in it a
Mhm.
lot. Natasha alone isn't really a lot. Shannon Elizabeth, they try to set this whole thing where like Nadia is trying to get back
Right.
to like, and then it's this whole thing about her trying to reach Jim, and then like is he going to choose her over Allison Hannigan's
Or
character?
yes, I do remember
But, like,
that. Yeah.
but she doesn't have enough screen time for that to really matter. So
Yeah.
it's so like I wonder when it came time to like doing some of these other ones. They're like, hey, I don't want to do it if I'm just going to be like window dressing. And I guess maybe by the
Yeah.
time you get to American Reunion, they're like, all right, whatever. Just for
Yeah.
I'm sure that was pitched to them as like, hey, we're all coming back, even if it's like for a small moment, you should take it and you know take one for the team
Right.
kind of thing. But
Yeah, because
yeah,
I've only seen American Reunion once, but I feel like they're all it's so blurry now, but I feel like everyone's, you know, got decent screen time from what I remember.
yeah, for the most part, yeah.
You
For the
know,
most
the
part,
whole
I
cast.
know they try.
Oh,
I know they
here
try
we
to touch
go.
on the
Look.
whole Vicky. What was that?
Chris Klein stated in an interview with HuffPost that Oz, Vicky, and Heather were not considered for the movie and that he didn't refuse to reprise his role as many believe.
Oh,
Interesting. Okay, so they weren't
they
even, for
they
whatever
didn't
reason,
wanna
they weren't
put them
even
in it.
thought about. Huh. That's so weird. That's so weird.
And by the way, I know some of these have like underperformed in the States, not by a lot, but like all of these have done really well worldwide. They've all topped their budgets. Like they've all done really well.
Mm.
So I can't even think of it being a matter of like let's write some people out to save money and that kind of thing. Like they're all
Right.
successful. So like I
Yeah.
can't imagine. I mean, unless they like this is some focus group, they're like, oh, these characters are boring, so let's not include them. I don't know,
Maybe.
but
Maybe.
it is better.
Yeah.
It was better having them all there in like American Reunion. I thought that was
Yeah.
nice.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Absolutely. Would you
Especially
ever
when
want
you-
another one? Would you ever want a fifth one? Or do you
Well,
feel
I
like
know
it's done?
think it's done, but I mean, I'm trying to think of a scenario that would work because American Reunion made sense because there was like some kind of event that could bring them all together.
Yeah.
The wedding one was another event that could bring them all together. I'm trying to think
Right.
of a scenario that would bring them together that would make sense. I guess it could be someone's like birthday party or maybe you can't do another wedding with different characters because that would just feel like you're just doing that same movie again. I mean, I don't.
Oh my god. I mean, this is kind of sad, but like, what if it's American
Oh,
Funeral?
a funeral?
And like it's Eugene Levy or you know what would be better if it's Stifler's mom that passed away sadly, and like I could just see like all sorts of weird twisted like MILF stuff that the guys do, but that could maybe work. But again, it's kind of a downer. Yeah, you're right. I don't know what would bring them back that would make it feel eventful. Yeah. Because again,
They've
do like
all talked about it though. I mean, especially in this day and age of like the legacy sequel and all that.
Right.
I know Tara Reid has, of course, Tara Reid has talked about it the most, I think, of the cast of wanting to do
really?
it again.
And would she really want to do it? That's
she said she would love. She said she would love to do it again. And so, American Reunion came out in 2012. So I mean, it's been a decent amount.
Wow, it's been a long time.
Between movies, everyone is still, I think, just recognizable enough to do it, and maybe not too busy. I know they're all like still doing things in their own right to various degrees. But I mean, that even though, like you said, it's a downer, that seems like the most logical scenario that would bring them together. But I think if you had good writing for it, you could make I mean, there is some levity sometimes in those things. I mean, they made a whole. I mean, Death of the Funeral is a whole. I mean, the whole thing is around a comedy based around a funeral. So like,
totally.
That could work.
Totally. And you know what? I feel bad saying this, but like she's very supporting. Maybe I mean, again, it's sad, but like it could also be Jim's mom that passed away, and now Eugene Levy is like, grieving, but he's like single, and I don't know. I'm just thinking of like any weird twisted reason to have everyone back, Yeah. But yeah, it could be fun. I don't know. There's something about this group that I wouldn't mind seeing them every, I don't know, 10, 15 years pop up in something, as long as, it's obviously worth doing and not just like,
cash grab. I mean, like the American Reunion made $235 million worldwide on a $50 million budget.
Wow.
So it was successful. I mean, it was successful enough, I think, for them to want to revisit it again with the right idea.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's so interesting. I guess they then just pumped all that money into the sort of offshoot movies, which makes sense because it's like, as everyone's getting older, but I mean, a lot of them still look good. It's so interesting because now, like out of the women, Natasha Lyonne is the busiest, and I feel like most.
She's famous. Like a writer now. I would say she is the most famous girl. I mean, Allison Hannigan will always be shows. Allison Hannigan will always be famous because of Buffy and How I Met Your Mother, and she'll always have that.
Right.
But Natasha
Allison Hannigan might be the richest woman actually out of the group because of the American Pie movie. She's in all of them. Buffy, How I Met Your Mother. I mean,
that syndication money must be crazy for How I Met Your Mother.
I hope so.
Even more. I mean, that syndication money for How I Met Your Mother is probably even better than the Buffy syndication money because I don't know.
Oh yeah,
probably what deals they were arranging for. The kids in the WB back in the day.
I know, right? Yeah,
but you're right about Natasha Lyonne. I mean, like she's been writing. I mean, and she had I know she had some issues back in the day, but she got through all that. And
the drug stuff back then.
Drug stuff, and came back pretty big. Has been like consistent.
Right.
And I would argue. I mean, that you're right that she is the most successful currently.
So maybe she's kind of like. Maybe actually, my gosh,
is she the most successful of all of them? I mean, like right now.
Right now, I kind of feel like it, because the others are not working as consistently.
Like Jason Biggs is around a lot. I see him on stuff all the time. He's always on talk shows with his wife. I don't know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah,
he's always on talk shows.
He's always like popping up in something, but it might not be like the biggest, most buzzy thing. But like the other guys and Sean William Scott kind of got quiet, which is a bummer because I love him. But Eugene Levy and Jennifer Coolidge and Natasha Lyonne are bigger than ever. So, oh my God, it could be kind of fun if it's sort of a different perspective where everyone's back, but what if it's a girl's perspective and Natasha Lyonne's the lead?
Or have her write it. She should write it. I mean,
honestly, at a minimum, at least co-write, for real, and get some good, dry humor in there from a female perspective to keep it thriving. Or maybe it's a spin-off or something with like I forget in one of the movies. Yeah, doesn't Stifler's mom and Eugene Levy, don't they like get together, or
I
am I
think they
wrong?
get together, something like
I
that, or
thought
something. They
yeah,
have a
there's
I
like
know that I think they have a scene together or something. I have to revisit it. It's been a while
yes,
since I
I feel
watched
like
it.
I saw it recently when I was like researching. They like are like cheersing together. Maybe it's American Reunion or Wedding, but I'm telling you, there's something that there could be something there for a sequel.
Yep.
That's
By the
all.
way, every time we do these episodes, we always have good ideas for how they can
I
follow it
know,
up
I know. Sorry,
spin
I
it
don't know
off.
if I'm just always
No,
like,
it's good.
what do you think, Gaius? How do we get them back? You know?
That
But
makes it
I'm
makes it
part of the
make the most sense,
problem.
man.
Whenever people are like, I don't want another I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'm like, okay, I'm up for it. Let's try it. Like I'm
Yeah,
always
let's
like
see how this
happy to,
goes.
hopefully see some familiar faces again, as long I mean, that's the thing. I don't think sequels are that hard to mess up. Like you
Yeah.
want to just like keep things at least consistent. That's like the bare minimum, but some of these movies don't even do that. But as long as you're just kind of like copying and pasting with a little bit of like a step forward, I'll be
Yeah.
all right with it.
I'm
It's
cool
when
with it
you
too.
don't do that, that's like, okay, that
Like,
was a
I don't
waste.
mind when you even have a shell of like, I don't mind even in the mixing of the old with the new. Like, if you want to do another American like pie type movie and bring
Right.
in newer people to mix it
Like
up
some
to
teams
mix
or
and mingle
something
teams,
or
yeah, to mix and
right.
mingle with it. That because I mean, I think Scream 2022, whether you're like you think it's fully successful, allowed that to work for the most part, where
Oh yeah.
it was a
Mhm.
nice marriage of the old and the new. I think Scream 6 did that fairly decently too, but
Yeah.
Scream 6 allowed the new people to like, all right, we're taking over because it's now at
Mhm.
least then it was their franchise, not anymore.
Yeah.
They've now
Although
lost
those
it.
rumors, you I'm
Oh,
sure have
I
seen now. I
saw
guess
it.
there's a
Yeah,
rumor going around that actually Melissa Barrera is in talks or something. So
yeah,
that could be interesting because it would be so strange to just abruptly pivot. But whatever, we'll see. I
yeah.
mean, it seems
Don't
like no
pivot
matter
too
what,
much.
Jenna Ortega doesn't seem to be involved at all, I
She's
guess.
like,
So
I'm busy, I can't.
she's like,
You know what?
thanks so much. Bye.
I know, and people don't mind when we go on these little tangents. They actually think this is kind of funny when we do this a little
Yeah.
bit. I don't. I imagine that she would have been down to come back in my brain if they hadn't fired Melissa Barrera the way they did. The way that her news dropped the next day, the very next day, like, well, I'm not coming back either. I felt like that was an unspoken sign of like solidarity. Like, well, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
do this movie either.
I agree. I feel the same way. The timing felt like she felt a jab on behalf of Melissa, so she wanted a jab back. Although
Yeah.
when it was announced, like they said, like this had already quietly been like discussed pre-strikes or something. Some
Yeah,
weird
yeah.
thing that I'm like,
They would have found out a
I
way
don't
to give her
know.
a small part.
Yeah.
They would have
Uh-huh.
tweaked their schedule to like fit her in if they.
Well,
if it
now
really
there's
was a
those
scheduling
rumors.
conflict.
There's like the leaked quote unquote. Who knows if any of this shit is true? But I'm sure you saw it too, Gay. It's like
Yeah.
there's like the original Scream 7 idea that came out where like
No.
I don't know if you read it, but like spoiler if anyone wants to hear an idea that will probably not be happening.
Yeah.
But I guess like Tara dies and that
Yeah, yeah.
sets Sam
Sets
off
her off.
into like I guess finally becoming a little bit closer
Full
to
crazy.
being a killer, or
Yeah.
something. So that would have been interesting, and that would have made sense for Jenna Ortega's busy schedule. So I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that whole thing so weird, but kind of cool that I guess because I loved Abigail. Did you see Abigail earlier this
Oh,
year?
I
I'm sure
loved
you did.
Abigail. I thought it was really
I
good.
thought it was so fun. I
actually
would love
think
to
that
see a
deserved
sequel or a prequel to
that
that.
deserved a lot better than it got. I mean, it
Yeah.
did okay, but it could have done better. I
I
mean, when
wonder
movies like that
why
don't
it didn't
when movies like that
take
don't hit, I'm
off.
always like, I want to blame other people. I was like, hey, I was
Yeah,
there. I mean, I
I
went to
don't
a
get
press
it.
screening and saw it in theaters, like paid
Yeah,
to go see it too. And I
yeah,
thought that was going to do a lot better than it did. I mean, it's coming from the guys who just did Scream, and like they had a
right.
good track record now. Like, I don't know. Uh,
Yeah,
I really don't know why it
weird.
didn't work, but I think Melissa Barrera was great in that and kind of shows that
Oh
she can
yeah,
really
great
lead a
cast.
project. Like her
Mhm.
acting improves every time I see her in something new. Like I think
Agreed.
that's the best thing about her.
100%. You're so right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. The change from Scream 5 to Abigail, whoa, you
yeah,
can really see it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah, it wouldn't be too
Anyway.
far off for us to get like some kind of legacy American Pie movie where you can just mix and me. I mean, I think that's the best way to kind of do it because like
Yeah.
you want to do it for like a generation like us that's like, okay, I remember all these people from back in the day, but like new audiences aren't going to remember them all or
Right.
don't even know who they are. So you have to
Yeah.
try to make it for them too. So I
Oh
think
my
there
gosh.
is a way to do it.
I just got a great idea, Gaius. Natasha Lyonne, Jess, is now the new MILF. She's
Oh,
getting it
nice.
on with a teen boy. Oh, that could be so fun for her. But like, she's more than just that, of course. We
Yeah,
spend more
right.
time with her, but like that can get, and maybe it's like one of their kids. Would they already have a teen? I don't know. I mean, this wouldn't be shot
Well,
for a little
she's
while, but like, you
she's
know, like
45 now in real life.
okay, yeah. So yeah, they all are of the age where they could have like a 16-year-old, I guess, you know, and if this
Yeah.
wouldn't shoot for a while if it were to happen. But that see like little details like that where like you're kind of redoing it, but in a new way that causes new fun and funny tension and problems throughout the group, you know, because what if she's
Yeah.
sleeping with like one of their sons? That could be funny, you know, or it could even just be Jennifer Coolidge just getting it on with, I don't know, someone else's kid or something, you know?
Yeah.
That could be fun. Yeah.
Well, her actually writing it isn't too far off because Adam Hurst, who wrote the first one, he wrote the first movie,
Mm.
American Pie 2, and American Wedding. He was just a producer on American Reunion, so it doesn't look like he doesn't mind relinquishing like the writing to someone
Yeah.
else. Like,
Mhm.
why not relinquish it to her? I mean, if she's a great writer from what we've seen,
Yeah.
and
That'd be fun.
she definitely is in a bigger moment than she was even in 1999. So I would love to see it. And I think that'd be the smartest way to kind of get that made and get that going.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Totally.
I would totally like to see it. As far as some of the more like raunchier scenes, do you remember what it was like when you already explained the come in the cup one with your parents. that was and honestly, like I'm watching it for this, like every time like she would almost drink it, I could hear the theater going like, oh no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then when he does it, his reaction to it is so like
Oh
great.
my
Where he
God,
just like because
so
he
good.
knows right away. And,
It's like you immediately can just like, oh, it's just your mind goes to any. It's just so gross.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
it's so gross.
It's great.
But I guess the one that the marketing kind of centered around, because the movie is called American Pie, and they do
Right.
feature a big apple pie on the poster with a big hole in it.
Uh-huh.
What was that scene like for you when you saw it? I mean, like, because that was like the big moment in the marketing. They use it in the marketing a lot, and then
Right.
it's funny because it is such a short scene in retrospect. Doesn't really. It's
funny.
based on one comment from earlier, right? That
Right,
Oz tells him, and
Warm, and even does the fingers. I didn't
Finger
realize
thing,
that,
yeah.
and that, I mean, I'm not a prude, but when he did that, I was like, oh my God, like put your fingers
Yeah.
down, you know, like, but
Yeah.
warm pie, and it's like,
Right.
huh. And then, I mean, it's just so brilliant with the note, like made you an apple pie, and like just seeing Jim get the idea, and like again, I could imagine, yeah, like you being in the theater, just hearing everyone being like, oh no.
You could even.
But-
I don't think you could even hear like Eugene Levy's like reaction to it because everyone was
Oh.
laughing so hard. Like when he walks
Oh,
in,
absolutely.
it's like he's just like Jim.
Oh my
He's
God.
like,
But okay, so when I rewatched it, I swear I feel like I've seen two different versions, and maybe there was like an unrated version. But when I just rewatched it to chat with you, it's Jim on top of it on the like kitchen island humping it. But I
Yeah.
feel like in the past, didn't I see it where he's standing up and humping it, or am I making that
there
up?
has to be a dip because I watched the unrated one and the one I watched was with him on top of it, on top of
Yeah.
the kitchen island, like full on humping it, laying on top of it. I do
Yeah.
remember one where he is standing up and
Yeah.
doing it
And
that
like
way.
and holding it like, and he's
Holding
kind of
it.
in the corner of the kitchen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe that was
So
the
one might be
theatrical
a-
version.
Yeah, one might be a theatrical
Right.
one and one might be unrated. The one I watched was
Yeah.
unrated, so I'm assuming the one on top of the kitchen island is the unrated one.
Yeah, I
And
guess
then
the
pie
actual
is just
laying
a-
down and humping, and
Yeah.
the pie's more of a mess because it's like
Yeah.
it's totally being ruined. Whereas when he's standing, I don't know. From what I can remember, you don't even really see the pie too much. He's just sort of holding it, and then like kind of
Yeah.
tries to turn away from.
And he turns
Dad, if I
around.
remember
It actually
correctly.
does turn around, and he's just covering himself with it. It does have the
Right.
same line though. It's not what it looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
two different ones. One being, I guess, more
Right. I
raunchier
guess
than
more.
the other.
Yeah.
And I just
yeah.
love when he just like, well, tell your mom we ate it all. And they,
Oh my
there's just
God. Well,
silence
what
afterward.
what makes that like gag so funny is their body language. Saying like then they're sitting
Yeah.
there in front of it at the table. Dad, has his arms crossed. Maybe Jim does too. And just
Yeah.
the way they're like together, but like completely cringing over this moment. Oh my, like
Yeah.
before he even says the line, like it's just so perfect. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
You know. But it's funny. I was reading because they talked about this in this great book that I talked about with you before,
Yeah.
best movie year ever, all about the
Yes.
1999 movies.
99.
And they talk about this movie, of course, because it was such a big deal. And I guess the
Yeah.
day of filming, Jason Biggs was like kind of having a little bit of a breakdown, calling his manager or agent, saying like, "Am I really gonna hump a fake pie? Like, am I really
have to do this?
doing this?" Like, because he knew obviously that was the role, but like not until they're saying, "Okay, here's the prop. You're gonna have to take your shorts down." Like he's like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, I actually really have to do this." Like there's no going back, And it's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
amazing that he actually is even still working, because I feel like some actors that do things like that would have left
Typecast,
Hollywood. They would have
or
been
would
like,
done. Like,
yeah,
you're-
or
that's
like,
all you're
yeah,
known
you're right.
as-
Or
all
would have
you're
been
known as
stuck
now.
in like, yeah, but he's been able to like actually stay successful and bounce around. And how funny. I just realized it never clicked for me that he and Natasha Lyonne were both in Orange is the New Black. So that was a little bit of a
Yeah.
American Pie reunion, although I don't think they
Yeah.
really had any scenes together. But so it's pretty impressive that he just leaned into that and that the film
Yeah,
was
and went
successful,
for- and went
because
for it, yeah.
that
And
could
I
have
think
been
it was that
not
was
so
part of the
great.
large reason why it was, because he was so willing to do that. Like, I think you
Yeah.
could have, if you would have cast a more well-known actor his age,
Uh-huh.
I think they would have had a lot of issues doing any of that, and there probably would have been a lot more like push and pull. Like I'm not sure, even if they read the script already, they probably were like, "I'll figure out a way to get out of it." Like
Totally.
I'm not gonna do it. And I
Yeah.
think it's cool that he actually went for it, and that's, I mean, it's memorable for a lot of ways. But I think not just because of like what he does, it's just the fact that he was so willing to like look like a fool and like for her
Absolutely.
amusement, and and it's also still
Yeah.
likable while acting a fool the entire time. Like you still
Totally.
like the guy. You, like no matter what.
Uh-huh. You're so right.
Yeah.
It's a really great point. Like he was able, and maybe that was just him at that time, but like even as he's doing these crazy things and like totally making an ass out of himself, you still root for him because he's so like that guy, or maybe you were that guy, like
Yeah.
he's totally average in like the best way for us to kind of
Yeah.
just stay with him,
Yeah, you still root
Yeah.
for him. I
Mhm.
think that's the best thing to say about it. We kind of hinted at one problematic scene. I guess we can talk about
Let's
it.
talk
in full
about
now.
it. Oh boy, it's so
the-
memorable. And I have to say, but before you set the scene, I completely forgot that Blink-182 was in this. I completely
Oh
forgot
yeah, I
they
did
have this
too.
great
Actually, I
cameo.
forgot two of those. I forgot that they were in it, and I forgot
Yeah.
that fucking Casey Affleck was like the
Oh my
what's his
God,
face's
yeah.
brother.
As
Yeah.
Tom
Tom
keep
C.
forgetting his
Nicholas'
name.
brother.
Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin's older brother. Oh my God,
Yeah.
completely forgot. I'm like, oh my God, so an Oscar winner is in American Pie. How funny. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, actually, the setup for the scene is funny. I mean, I still found it funny.
Yeah.
You know,
It's super funny. It's just so twisted now.
For everyone
Yeah.
that, I mean, of course, you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, 25-year-old spoiler. But
Yeah.
Nadia is like a foreign exchange student, and she wants to come over to have Jim help her with her studies, as she says. By the way, Shannon Elizabeth says she got that part because she auditioned for a French accent for some other
Oh
project.
yeah.
With her boyfriend at the time, who became her husband. I don't think they're together anymore, but
Oh, yeah.
he I guess he laughed at her in this class because he said your French sounds like a Russian accent. So he's like, so when you go in and read for this, just do that French accent because they'll just think it's Russian. And so that's how she ended up getting the part. And they also
Yeah.
had to tell her that it required nudity and having to make her feel comfortable and safe in regards to that.
Right.
And she was willing
I
to
mean,
do it.
she's perfect casting. I mean, she
Yeah.
is and was absolutely like so sexy. Like
She was a
whatever
moment.
you
People forget
identify
about
as.
that.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
there's no denying she was like sex personified. Her
Yeah.
her tan, her body, those
Yeah.
boobs, the hair. I mean, hot. Yeah. So
Yeah, she's
absolutely.
gorgeous. And
Yeah.
and I kind of forget that she was a moment for like a little pocket of time.
I
Like,
know it's
between-
kind of crazy how like she like because how you said a year later, oh my God, she is so hilarious in Scary Movie, but they never brought her back, which is funny because like I feel like they would always bring back people to like I mean like Regina
Regina
Hall. was always
Yeah.
back, and she would like die or do whatever, you know.
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
so good in that. She was in Cursed, which was fun, but not the best. So I mean, she popped up in a couple things, but like
13 Ghosts is another one she was
13
in.
Ghosts, you're right,
fun,
iconic,
fun movie.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like
She
it wasn't a very long streak for her. I feel like I don't know what changed, you know.
she has like one of the like it's not necessarily a funny line, it's just how she says it in Scary Movie when after they hit the guy and she just picks up, she's just like, oh my god, we
Oh,
hit
yeah.
a boot. And like
Oh,
yeah.
iconic. Oh my god, she's
Like,
so good. Oh my
yeah.
god, I'll be talking about that
Uh,
movie next summer for sure. on my
I mean,
pod.
probably us too.
Yeah.
And so he's like, yeah, we can set it together, whatever. So the guys think it's a perfect opportunity to set up a webcam in his room, intended to just be viewed by like him, his friends, including
Right.
Stifler too. I guess Stifler was included
Stifler.
in that, and
Mhm.
Stifler's brother, who just happens to be hanging out in the room. Um,
Yeah.
and this webcam show inadvertently gets sent out to everyone in the directory, like the high school email, like directory or whatever, and they all
Oh my
see it.
god.
And like he sets it
That's
up
something
where
I
you
would
know,
do
she
by
just
accident.
mistake, yeah.
That's totally like
So,
totally. You know, when you accidentally reply all and you're talking shit, I'm like, yeah, I've been there, you know.
Yeah.
So
So this
totally.
whole thing is set up to because she says she has ballet practice before, and then she's like, "Oh, well, maybe I could just change at your house." Well, like when I get there. So that's the whole
Yeah.
idea of setting up the camera is like watching her, be able to watch her like undress in his room. And of course that turns into her just kind of fiddling around his room and like
Yeah.
finding like his like Hustler magazines, and she's like playing with herself. And then they're like, "You need to
Right.
go over there." Like they're like, "Go back over there."
Oh
'cause
my god. And
it's-
I forgot that he runs out of his house to go to his friend's house, I guess nearby, a couple streets over, to watch. Like, oh my god, it's
Yeah.
so wrong. It's so
And I love that he
forgot
runs
about
out and he's like tells his parents, "I'll be back in a minute." And they're like, "What? Isn't there a girl upstairs
Yeah,
to be studying
yeah.
with?" Apparently, Jason Biggs that running stuff, like he really like winded himself out. Like it was like doing it over and over again.
Well, also,
yeah.
I even wrote down in my notes during him running, I wrote, "Geez, in 1999, could clothing have been any like thicker and heavier?" Like,
yeah,
you know, because everything back then we liked our baggier clothes. Everything was longer. Everything just was like a thicker material. Then I'm like,
Yeah.
geez, this poor guy with his huge like cargo pants. Like,
yeah.
it's not like today where clothes are much more not, you know. I mean, actually, with Billie Eilish, clothes are still baggy because everything's cyclical. But yeah, all I could think of was like, geez, they couldn't put him in like a lighter outfit.
Yeah.
Oh,
So now the
work.
moment has escalated. So like Jim does not know
Yeah.
that he sent it out to everyone. They are told this after he runs back to the house, and Finch and Kevin are the ones that get notified that like that was sent out to
from
everyone.
Sherman.
For
Yeah.
Sherman, right? So now it's escalated to like now they're gonna potentially watch their friend have sex with this girl if he can make it happen, and of course it turns into like him. They think it's gonna be something sexy, and then she makes him like dance for her.
Oh my
And
god,
all that
she
stuff,
is
which is
so
like
funny. 'Cause
also
again, she's so like chill about it. She's just like, "No, it's your turn. Strip."
yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
and
And
then she
like
plays
and,
some random music, and yeah,
I know it's like this weird like late 90s like techno like European music pretty much. And again, another good example of Jason Biggs just making a fool of himself and just going with it completely. And then of course
Totally.
he has two moments where he what does he say? What like Silver's was like, what happened? And Silver's like, he blew it like
Yeah.
too early.
Oh my god, yes.
And not
you know,
not once, but twice.
this was a learning moment for me because you know I was only 12, but yeah, I learned like, oh, like you can get so excited it'll just happen,
Go.
and then
Yeah.
that's when I learned like, oh, that's bad. You got to pace yourself, like
Yourself,
because
yeah.
you know, as a kid, you know, you're just like,
Not
oh,
thinking
that's
about
good,
that.
right? It's like, oh no, like you're not even. You gotta like wait a little bit before, you know. So yeah, and then he does it
Yeah.
twice. And I love when the girls are watching because that was also fun. It wasn't just the guys. That
Oh
were
yeah, it was
being
a group of
little
girls, and they're
sleazy.
like, when it happens the second time, they're like,
Yeah.
again,
Again? Oh, but it is funny that we only see Kevin and Finch watching and Stifler. None of the girls in their group are watching, and neither is Oz. So it is funny how like, you know, some friends don't see it and then they don't even talk about it with him.
About
you know,
it.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
just has like
it's
that
sort of
one
an
moment where
interesting
he's
choice.
back at school, and then everyone kind of is looking at him, and like
Everyone's
you know,
looking at him,
there's,
but
like,
even
next
his
scene
friends
of
are.
embarrassment.
I think Kevin
Nobody-
calls him like a Minuteman or something, but that's it.
something
Like,
along that. Yeah,
you know,
Um,
yeah. And then
so
Michelle
this-
later on does say like, "I know I watched you on the
show
net."
air.
You know,
that,
yeah, and that's why I knew, this date would, be worth it because I know what you can do, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the scene is funny. Just wouldn't fly today. To set up a camera without a girl knowing it, to watch her even just undress, and then even though Jim doesn't know that this is going out to everyone at the school, he does know that his friends are seeing it, so he is potentially going to have sex with this girl on camera, and she doesn't know that
Yeah.
she's being recorded. So when you actually think about like the implications behind that scene, it is a
Oof.
like we've talked about it on episodes that you've been on, like 1999, like it was a different time. Like that
Different
stuff could fly.
time for sure. And
Uh,
like it really was, especially, there were so many great girl movies and like female led teen movies. Of course, we've talked about many of them, but still, like, boys, this just kind of shows, and I don't want to bring it down too much because it's a silly comedy, but like, yeah, girls weren't really as important as boys. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And this scene kind of like says that, and it's a little dark. Like, yikes, that kind of, and you know what's wild? Oh my God, I just thought of this, Gaius. Bringing
Yeah.
it back to the Rage Carrie 2. This happens in the Rage
Oh,
Carrie
in that
2.
movie,
At
yeah, they
the
record
party,
her.
they
Yeah.
record them having sex, and then they play
And
it at
play
the
it at
party
the
on the big
party.
screens, which is so wrong. I think actually
Yeah.
maybe worse than getting pig's blood thrown on you is
On you.
having, maybe the first time you're having sex as a kid and everyone's watching and laughing at you. But basically,
Yeah.
how wild. Like 1999, this connection there with like, yeah, this video is going to go around whether
Yeah.
they had sex or not. We're going to see her body and she has no idea. Yeah, even if this was made just a few years later, I hope like it would have been like she realized as she's like, I don't know, masturbating, or even before then, she realizes like there's a red light on the camera. And then like
Yeah.
it would have been still super funny if she's holding the camera and she's like, I'm going to be behind the camera, you strip for me. And now it's only
Yeah.
him. Like that still would have been great, still would have worked, but she would have at least been in the know,
Yeah. And I think the only thing that maybe, and this is a very small, makes it not even okay, but like less potentially problematic, even though she is
Mhm.
unaware, the scene flips as soon as he gets back and he's the one being embarrassed. It's not so much
Yeah.
her at that point.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, so the first half of that scene, she is naked on camera. She doesn't know people are watching
Yeah.
it. But I think the only reason that scene even can get away with like being like slightly okay today is that like she doesn't become the butt of the joke anymore. Now it's just him. And now he's
Yeah.
the one that's embarrassed. And
And she
I think
covers
that's the only
herself
reason.
up.
Yeah.
as
So I
he's
think that's the only
taking
reason
stuff
why
up,
it
yeah.
can still kind of work. Shannon
Yeah.
Elizabeth said that in a post like Me Too world that this
Mhm.
scene wouldn't fly today. She said
Yeah.
that scene would have been handled a lot differently. And this guy, Chris Brosnahan, he said in 2019, went to see Booksmart movie last night. It's interesting comparing how teen comedies have changed since American Pie.
Mm.
It's sexy with some fantastically dirty jokes, but has so much more heart and all the
Yeah.
more rewarding for centering girls. And he said American Pie has aged really badly, particularly in how it treats women, consent, and privacy. Booksmart does a much better job with it, and it's because it has a different understanding of gender.
Yeah, totally. I maybe we're jaded because like so many movies were like that, of this time.
Yeah.
So like we're kind of used to it. But yeah, I mean, especially it's funny comparing it to Booksmart because I just realized I think Booksmart was in 2019, so 20 years after this. And
Yep.
yeah, like totally still raunchy and so wild and crazy, but like way more heart and more balance between genders for sure. Yeah. But
Yeah.
better late than never, I guess.
Uh, And I know we have to suspend disbelief because it's a comedy, but like, I mean, there's no real implications for Jim doing that or setting it up. Like, I mean, I figured if that many students were able to see this, like someone's parents would have caught on to it, right? So like someone would have been like, and the only consequence is that Nadia got sent away back home. Like that
I
was
know,
how they
how
like explained
terrible.
her.
Like that's what comes of that. Nadia has to
Yeah.
like, it is kind of weird. It almost felt like was Shannon Elizabeth not available, like to just sort of tell that line, like
Just
a
gotta write her
throwaway
out, yeah.
line. Yeah, and
Yeah.
also I'm like, I mean, the ending is sweet and funny, when she's online and he's dancing again for her. But I'm like, Jim, you
Yeah.
are very lucky that Nadia will talk to you because
Yeah.
what you did, not cool. And then to kick
Press
her out of the
charges,
country.
I don't know. I
Like she
know.
basically got like deported because of this. Terrible,
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, but I do agree though. I mean, that you can look at it and say that it's aged not as well as it could have. I mean,
Yeah.
me and my friends have talked about that scene a lot just over the years. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember we all thought it was funny back then, and then for a while, even a few years after that, like it's still hilarious. And then like the state of the world changes a bit. And you're like, oh, don't really think
Right.
about how like wrong that is. I mean, because
Yeah.
it's not written, not even with the intention of being wrong. I mean, I think at the heart of it, it's written as like, these young boys are just trying to like see a hot girl. And like, I think that it is written with like as innocent as you can write it. I don't think that it's written with
Right.
the intention of like being like some kind of voyeur who's doing something against someone's consent. But I think the difference now is like people have to think about what they write now, is that there are real consequences to what you can do and write. And like, and that is something you have to think about. But I don't think the original intention of writing a scene like that is to really make it an issue of like, privacy and getting consent from her. I know that might sound like a weird way to put it, but I don't think that was like how that guy wrote it. There was no ill intentions in writing that scene. It was a scene played for laughs that really, at the end of the day, makes fun of the guy more than her in the end, I guess.
Totally. Oh yeah. He's the butt of the joke. Yeah.
Joke. Yeah. But again, I can totally see why it hasn't aged particularly well once you really think about what it is and like
Yeah.
exactly
It's
what
just,
it is.
I just feel like what sucks about it now, and it's a shame because it is funny, but it's so wrong. And I just wonder, like, what did we aren't women, and we weren't women in 1999. So, like, what did
Yeah.
young women think of when they saw that? Like,
I-
I'm gonna ask like some of my friends, like, what did you think when you saw that? Because like even they might be like, oh yeah, I didn't really think it was weird until later. But maybe some young women were like, yeah, this is so not cool. But like, you just hear like in the true crime world, like you hear bad stuff happening with like sex tapes that they don't even know that they're having that they're being recorded and like all this terrible stuff. So that's why
Yeah.
watching it again with like a 2024 lens, it's like,
Yeah.
ooh, this leads to like bad stuff in the real world happening to
Yeah.
people. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So yeah.
And we haven't really talked about him a lot, but he has of course, he has like the big moment with Stifler's mom at the end, but he also has a really funny thing in the middle of the movie because our character Finch does not like using the restroom or bathroom at.
I am right there with you,
school.
Finch. I wrote that
Which
down.
I know
I'm like,
I know a lot of people in high
amen.
school who did like. I don't know how they were holding it that long through like six periods of high school, but I had a lot of friends that refused to use our bathrooms.
Yeah.
Especially to take a shit.
That's so funny.
And
Oh yeah.
and
Oh,
of course,
absolutely.
he's
No
put
way.
in a position where he's forced to because everyone's been building, or we found out later that it was Jessica that was building up so he can maybe get a date to prom, and built up
Right.
so much that it turned into like, oh, I guess he like kind of like beat Stifler's ass or something along those lines, and Stifler's like, all right, I'm gonna
Right.
get back at him then and make sure he
Oh my
does
God.
by,
It's such brutal retaliation. Oh
I
my
know,
gosh. Yeah.
giving them some exploding toilets a bit. Honestly, Eddie K. Thomas, that scene is so funny. I was like laughing like a little kid because like he's trying to clearly hold in like a big explosive diarrhea.
Oh yeah.
Like
It's great acting. I don't
Yeah,
care what
yeah.
anyone says. It is great acting. He is
And-
so funny. I think we all unfortunately have been there at least at some point in our lives. Hopefully your friend didn't trick you, but you ate something and
Yeah.
it's got to come out immediately. I get it. I've been there where like you can't even sit down. It just starts, but like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's so funny. First of all, he's in the women's
That's
ladies' room,
that's
which
the,
is just-
that's the big part of the joke, which is
oh
great.
my God, where it's like the girls and then he really can't hold it in and they're like, he's farting, but like even before that, the little squares, he's ripping the toilet paper because
Yeah.
I get it. He doesn't, it's germs and he's
Yeah.
reaching in. Like it's such perfect comedy. It's, you know what it
Yeah.
is? It's like, because Dumb and Dumber, I talked about on my show, and that turns 30
Yeah,
this year.
that's-
It's like
yeah.
it's like honestly the new Dumb and Dumber toilet joke, where
Yeah.
in that one, Harry's letting loose because of what Lloyd did to him, and the toilet's broken. Now Finch is letting loose, but like he's a germaphobe, and he can only just get one square at a time,
Yeah.
and he just can't control it. It's so funny. It's really
And I
top-notch
love
comedy.
the build up to it too, because like I don't necessarily love like poo jokes a lot where it's
Right.
like, oh, we're just gonna throw it in there for the, but it's set up a few times with this character, like this is something that he is a germ, like he's like gargling at the diner table with his friends, like the mouthwash. Like he is like he's a very particular kind of person.
Oh yeah,
and
he is
like
quirky.
and like also in a different, like he reminds me of like the male version almost of the Natasha Lyonne character, where he seems like
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah,
because I think at one point after that first party, I think he's sitting in the corner. It looks like he's drinking like scotch in the corner. So he's like clearly like more sophisticated than his friends, or at least wants to be. So
and
there is a build up to him doing that, which is great.
And I
It pays
personally
off.
like that because I love what you said. I've always viewed him and Natasha Lyonne as like equals, like they're the same character, just different genders. But I like that, at least in this movie, there's no real. Well, I forget at the end, does she kind of come on to him? Because I was gonna say there's no real like romance
No,
between
there's
them.
I don't think there's no real romance at all. Yeah, which is good.
You
They're
know,
just
yeah,
like
it's like they view each other as like they're just friends. They're both a little more
equals.
mature, you know.
Yeah.
But I totally agree. They are like, you know, everyone's paired up, and they are, but not romantically. They're paired up like, you know, same brain waves, brain something. I don't know. You know, same sort of people.
Yeah. Oh, I also love that was Eddie K. Thomas's audition scene too. He had to
Was
like
it really?
do that. There's actually, you can look it up on YouTube, or if you have the Blu-ray, he's actually in the room, like sitting on the chair and like having to imitate, like basically like act like he's having explosive diarrhea, which is like, I mean, I guess if that has to be the scene, that you have to sell that one the most of.
Oh my god! You know what? I might have to now. You know what? You're inspiring me. I might need to start adding that as an improv exercise in my acting classes and just go for it. Especially when I teach comedy, I think I'm gonna do the Eddie K. Thomas toilet scene and just give us your explosive diarrhea.
You have to have like
That's
zero.
amazing.
You have to have like zero inhibitions to do it. And I think that's why would be a really good audition scene, because it is his biggest scene in the movie as far as like his like, you know, outwardly like comedic chops, like what he has to do to sell it. And
because out of the group of friends, he's kind of the most supporting. You know, like he doesn't have as much him to do. Kind of the least. You know what I mean?
Yeah, amongst the guys, especially.
Right.
Kevin has like I didn't realize until watching for this one, but Kevin has moments where I was like, I don't know if I like you that much. Like, I mean, I guess he was fine, but like, you know, like there's that one line when they're at the first party, and I hate scenes like this where they clearly weren't close enough for her to hear him. Where he was just like, where he's like, no, this blowjob shit, I want to get laid, and she's like, oh, like she gets all upset, too far away at a loud party for her to actually hear him say that.
I know. I thought that too. I was like, oh, how perfect. She's right there, you know. But I know what you mean. He's like a good guy, but he's maybe trying too hard, and so that comes off a little.
And he might be the most insecure of the bunch, because he's the one that really pushes. Like, once the other guys are over it by prom, like, hey, I don't care if we like get laid tonight anymore.
Right.
Like, he's the one that's like, well, no, we made a pact, we got to do it. Like, he's the one that like, pushes it, and they all kind of like go off on him. Like, you know, if you feel like you can't do this alone, is that why you want us all to do it? And he kind of brings it back down to like, no, like we agreed, like. Yeah, so I kind of I guess viewed that he is the most insecure, even more than Jim probably, even though he has a girlfriend. Like, he's the most
honestly,
insecure of the...
that's a really good point. He's kind of the most insecure and most like horny and most aware of like what other teens are doing. And it's funny, he's the one that has the steady girlfriend. So that's so interesting. And then it kind of again brings me back to Scream, where it's like Billy and Sid, and they haven't had sex yet, and he's like, really, you know, they've been together. So it's like, it's what were the late 90s telling us? Like, boys that had steady relationships, like, were gonna start to like freak out if they, you know, if their girlfriends were taking too long or something, right? Impatience, a lot of impatience with the boys in the late 90s. Yeah, totally.
And I do like by the end of it, everyone is kind of in character. You know, when they have to admit, like, well, did you get laid? Did you get laid? And Oz doesn't say if he did. He just says that he basically had like a wonderful night, and doesn't go into any detail about it, which I thought that's like in character for him at that point, because he clearly was, even though he has that like awkward thing with that one girl in the car, and he's like, suck me beautiful.
Oh my god, we didn't talk about that. That was like a Kevin moment where it's like, all right, you're trying these lines on and it's not working. Oh my god, suck me beautiful.
But even with that, he is the most sensitive of the guy crew. So like I just love that by the end, like they all kind of have like, you know, their own little
their
conclusion
own
to their arcs.
versions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and it makes sense for the character. It makes sense that Finch would end up with Stifler's mom because, like, you know, they don't really show like there's like a ton of necessary like one-on-one conflict between him and Stifler. But the whole like
Right.
thing with the you know, yeah, there was a lie that I might have beat you up. You definitely one up me by making me take a shit dramatically in school. But like
Right.
it does make sense that like that would be like a good thing for him to do as a comeuppance, not only to get laid, but also like a funny comeuppance to Stifler.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that some of the like we lost our virginity moments are played for like as serious as they should be for those characters,
Right.
and some are played for jokes, like Jim and is her name Michelle?
Totally.
Michelle.
Michelle.
It's played for jokes. Then Finch and Stifler's mom is played for jokes, and the
You're
other ones
right.
are played for something more serious. Like the fact that I think it's perfectly realistic that Kevin and Vicky, since they're going to be graduating, they won't be close together in proximity. They kind of
Mhm.
realize that like this is, and I think it's a good example of like people who think because they're in a long-term relationship, like, oh, this is going to last, especially in high school, you think everything lasts forever. I thought it was really
Yep.
nice that by the end of that they kind of were like at least adult enough to be like, oh, we're not going to stay together. Like, how are we? Like,
Right.
this is not going to, but yeah. So like everyone
Yeah.
had their own really individual moment that made sense to them by the end of it. And I give
Yeah.
the movie credit for doing that.
I like that. You're so right. I didn't think about that. How out of the main 4 couples, yeah, 2 are a more serious, sensitive night together, and then 2 are
Yeah.
much more goofy, silly, and how that's like
Yeah.
truly the perfect balance, you know? But
Yeah.
yeah, I think ultimately like it is such a fun movie. Such a like we said, the great chemistry between the cast. It's all great. I think what would make me love it more or love it and not like it more, but love it is, yeah, if the writers, because you're right, you bring up a good point. Like, there's never really like enough tension between Stifler and Finch. It's like all, it's there here and there. They kind
Yeah.
of one up each other, but I think maybe a better script would maybe show us that, like, yeah, Stifler is an asshole. And so that when Finch gets with his mom, it's like, bam, in your
Yeah.
face, bitch. Like, and
Yeah.
it's still super funny. Obviously, it works very well, but yeah, like in terms of just going full circle and like, payoff, it could be
Right.
maybe a little stronger. And same with the friend dynamics, like a little bit almost more like weaving in and out, where a different movie would maybe just spend 2 or 3 more minutes just kind of, showing different mixes of the friends. Or again, sorry to go back to Scream, but like, a fountain scene, or like having the group hang out where it's not just only the guys or only a couple girls or only just the
Yeah.
couples. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so,
Yeah.
but I guess that's what the sequels do a little bit. There's a little bit more
Yeah,
mingling
they
between
expand on it.
you know,
Like people that didn't
which is
normally
smart.
interact with each other, which is good.
Yeah, that's good.
But I am thinking about like in the grand scheme of like how these movies wrap. Like when Can't Hardly Wait wraps up, I actually like where everyone kind of is by the end of that.
Yeah.
And it's cool that like different people are kind of like, you think you're gonna spend the movie like with Ethan Embry and Lauren Ambrose's character because they're friends and whatever. And then of course like right before the main stuff of the party starts, they're separated. She's with Kenny. He's still trying to get with River Love Hewitt. There's all these mixing and mingling of the characters, and then like by the end, like those connections are still strong though. Even though like Ethan Embry doesn't have another scene with her until the end of the movie where they have to recall like, oh, what happened to you last night, and she has to explain that she got locked in the bathroom with Kenny, and then like, and she is genuinely asking him like, what happened with it's with Amanda, like did you say what you need to say, and like so like there was still real stuff in there, even though like their paths weren't always together for that one night at the party. I think with some of the stuff in American Pie, like but when it was over, even though I liked the resolution of like the night of prom, it felt like the ending itself was like a little like rushed in a sense where
a little
like, we're wrapping things up, like, that kind of thing.
It kind of felt like, all right, well, they all had sex
a little bit,
which that's funny, but I completely agree. I kind of was like, oh, all right, and I'm like, but there's got to be more, and then we at least have the funny moment with him and Nadia online. But like it really is kind of like, all right, well, they all got what they wanted, so bye. Like it is sort of like the end.
It really felt like they just didn't know how to like conclude it, really. And like and I mean, and you get the impression though, like I mean, I guess you see it more in like the sequels, like the ones that they're all in together, but like the core group of guys, I think what was also missing for me a little bit is like it felt like even though they have good chemistry as friends, it felt like they were friends because like the plot had them be friends and not necessarily because there was like history there. You know, if that makes sense.
That's a good point.
Like,
Yep, I totally hear you. Mm-hmm.
So like they play off each other well. So I'm not taking that away from them. They all play off each other well, and I buy them as friends. I just don't like necessarily buy like there's like a ton of history there
Right.
by the time
We
that they
don't
get to this
we
point.
don't and not that you need like exposition, that's never great in scripts, but yeah, there doesn't seem to be too many like inside jokes or anything that like shows us immediately like, oh, okay, these guys are
No.
like family, you know. Yeah,
Right.
I hear you. They're just sort of like we just sort of start and maybe they like had rehearsals or something, but like because their chemistry is so good, we never question it. But yeah, it could have been even stronger with some little drops of like, I don't know, some stuff we don't even know what they're talking about, but they're laughing and we understand, oh, okay, you guys have been tight for a long time. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And I know we only mentioned him once, but good for John Cho. He gets like one of the more iconic lines in the movie.
Oh
He gets
my
to
God.
he gets to do the MILF thing in here. And then like even like I think he's popped up in another one of these movies as well. I think he might be a reunion as well too. And then he got to go off and do like the without the success for American Pie, I don't really think you get Harold and Kumar. So he got to kind of do that franchise as well.
Isn't that funny how that almost kind of feels almost like
Yeah.
a spin-off of this franchise because they're you know both so goofy. Yeah,
like a
good for
really
him.
tiny part. He gets like one kind of big line. He's in the choir for some reason. They don't.
Yes,
really,
I
he's
know.
just
I
there.
laughed at that too. I'm like, oh, that guy's in the choir. Okay, I mean,
he doesn't seem
I
like
guess
he
so.
would be, but he's there.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's cool.
But
You get that.
I
like,
wanted to
kind of one
ask.
iconic line though, and then he got. To
I
say
know.
it.
I was gonna
That's
say
awesome.
like that iconic line, MILF. Now I'm trying to remember. Do you remember, Gaius? Like, did we know that word before this movie? Because I don't know if I
did not.
did.
There
Yeah,
are two things that I didn't know.
and
I
I
was
read
unaware
that
of
John
before I
Cho
saw
also.
it.
I
Didn't know
read
what
that
it
he
was.
also had never heard of that word. So
I had
did
never
this
heard of
movie
MILF.
make it up?
I'm assuming so. I mean, I could look it
Wow.
up, but I had never heard it before. I had never heard of two things. I never heard of MILF, and I had never heard of lacrosse back in 1999.
No way,
Because
really?
it's not something that's played here in LA.
Oh
Now,
my
what's
gosh,
funny
that
is that
is too
years.
funny.
Well, what's funny is that years later, after I graduated, our high school eventually got a lacrosse team. But I had
Oh,
never. I
how
was like,
funny.
I was like, what even is a sport? When we were watching it in theaters, I was like,
Oh
I don't
yeah,
understand.
I still don't even know what it is, and it was a big deal in my school in South Jersey where I grew up. Oh yeah, Morristown lacrosse was a big thing. So that's so funny. I never even thought of that. That yeah, like in some high schools watching
Yeah, I
this,
was
you'd be like,
it's
what
kinda like,
kind of
I don't know
game
what
is
it is.
that? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you probably thought like, did they make that up for this movie?
Yeah, for
It's
the
so
movie,
funny.
yeah. But
Wow.
yeah, it's cool
Yeah.
that he got to have that. And I don't know.
Oh
I
yeah.
want to ask you a couple of things before you wrap up. For better or worse, I think
Yeah.
it did spawn more movies like this. We talked about Road Trip. Euro Trip is
Right.
another one. I think it kind of
Yep.
reignited the whole gross out, not just teen comedy, just gross out comedies in general. And
Right.
do you think that was a good thing, or I mean, we had some winners in there. I think. And just
Yeah,
some
I
punkers
mean,
as well.
I mean, that's a really good question. Like, I would say overall, yeah, I think it's a good thing because yeah, like you said, there were some highlights, like Road Trip. Oh my, I haven't seen it in years, in decades, but
It's
man,
been a long time.
that
I
made
remember
me
loving
laugh
it
out
at the time.
loud. Oh my God, you
Yeah.
know, and honestly, I mean, Scary Movie didn't mock this kind of movie, but because of this movie, you know, that paved the way for even other like fun movies like that, you know? Like I'm
Yeah.
sure without American Pie, would we have had Scary Movie? Maybe, but would it have been so funny and so gross out?
Yep.
Maybe not, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's good. I mean, I actually don't know if I've ever even seen Euro Trip. Maybe
It's
clips,
a
but like
grower. So I used to
yeah,
not like it that much because I
yeah,
used to always compare it to like your Road Trip. It was always something I
Road
feel
Trip,
like it's
yeah,
trying to be that, but not as funny. But in
yeah.
hindsight, it is a movie that's gotten better for me with
Okay,
age, and there
maybe
is
I'll
some really
finally
funny
check it
things
out.
in it.
I know I've seen
But yeah,
parts, but maybe not the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, you know, this did lead to some not so good ones, but that's honestly, that's any successful like genre is then you're gonna get
so
like
yeah,
the scary movies that aren't so good, or like, you know, rom-coms that aren't so, you know, it's like inevitable for any genre. So yeah, I think it's great. It is very
it did
80s
seem
though. Like
to
rewatching it
yeah.
now, it's
Yo,
so
it's
like
very you can
Revenge
tell
of the
how inspired
Nerds,
it is. Porky's, it's
right?
very much inspired by that.
Porky's, Animal
And
House, it's so that. Yeah.
And I know we got other little like classic teen movies in the vein of what started out the year, but I feel like
Mhm.
this. I don't want to say it killed that kind of teen movie that was coming out,
Right.
even just in like January, February, March of '99. But I don't
Yeah.
really think you kind of could go back to like the wholesome stuff we were getting before this. It seemed like it
Right.
ended with American Pie, and then you got spurts of like other ones, but like not in like there'd be like years where there weren't any, or there'd be
I
some little
know.
ones like that weren't necessarily teen films, but they were like appealing to young adults. So you had stuff like Down to You and Summer Catch, and none of those movies made money,
Right.
or like Boys and
No,
Girls and
yeah.
like stuff like that.
I
None of those movies
It's
did
so
well.
funny. You bring up a great point. Like American Pie was sort of the peak of this we'll just say genre of like the teen movie. And
Yeah,
yet in its shadow, there were mostly duds after that for teens. But
yeah,
then, a year later we got like Bring It On, which is pretty
yeah. Which I
awesome.
guess is like I
So
think that one rides the cusp of being like it is a PG-13 movie, but it does try to
right.
be a
It's
little
not really
raunchy, and like
raunchy, but
it's in the middle. Yeah,
that's kind of when they were like starting to you either were raunchy or you had to be like smart and clever and like
yeah,
quippy.
yeah,
So your script had to be like sassy. So
yeah.
yeah, it's like which one are you? Are you the American Pie knockoff now, or are you going to try to do something,
Like
kind
10
of
things I
new,
hate
or
about
like
you ish.
do the 10 things or Clueless and maybe, really have some dialogue that pops. So, yeah, that's kind of where they sort of split
So
because
you only
American
get him
Pie
in like
was a true game changer, you
yeah, you
know?
only get him in like you got him in spurts. Like you said, you got Bring It On, and then I can't think of anything offhand that broke
Yeah,
out
I'm
in the
trying to
same way
think.
other until Mean Girls in 2004,
Right.
maybe that
Yeah, I mean,
eh,
I'm sure there were some other good ones, but yeah, it was I mean, we had Dude, Where's My Car?
car.
But now we're getting kind of a little stonery, so then that's like another
Yeah,
offshoot, where like that's your thing. Like the actual like teen kind of sex comedies, anything that was romance or sex, yeah, kind of fizzled. Like I don't really
yeah.
nothing's screaming out at me now as I try to remember the early 2000s.
Yeah, and now I think to a certain point, the old like once you get down in the years, it seems like the ones that kind of did a little bit, like did okay, that seem to be remembered more fondly now. It's they felt
Yeah.
like almost like throwbacks to like what these
Yeah.
movies were. Like She's the Man is remembered fondly by a lot of people that
Oh, I
like it. That
love She's the
and
Man.
that
Oh my
and
god.
that movie
So
has
good.
like how that movie has a lot of the sensibilities of like these late night, not American Pie, but like maybe a little bit
Right.
more 10 Things I Hate About You,
It's
and like it's
yeah,
a
especially with the Shakespeare. Yeah.
even his poster is like a throwback to like putting
Oh,
them all in a
totally, you're
group, like
right.
all that.
Uh-huh.
And
All
then
standing there.
you had Mean Girls before that. You get Easy A eventually. So
Oh, yeah.
like you said, they either had to be really really smart and witty, or they
Mhm.
had to like break kind of some kind of boundary to like kind of surprise and shock you, and
And
like
yeah.
yeah,
And then 10 years after this, then we got another groundbreaking one during the mix of all that, which was super bad. Which
right,
that then paved the way, I feel like, for Knocked Up, even Bridesmaids, Booksmart. Like then you got the sort of R-rated, not really raunchy, not stoner, but just like super relatable, down to earth, just kind of crazy like teens, or Bridesmaids
yeah.
obviously wasn't teens, but just like groups of friends on a mission. But like to me, those out of all of these maybe were the most relatable because they weren't all about sex, they weren't all about drugs, they were just like, I don't know, just like trying to live. So
Yeah,
it's funny to see the progression of the teen
yeah,
movie.
like, and then you just kind of like think it's dead. You get like a random. Like I remember when I saw The Duff, and I didn't think anything of it when I first
Oh
saw it.
yeah, I heard that was pretty good.
But then I watched it again like a few years ago because my buddy is actually he's friends with Robbie Amell, so like we
Oh
watch some
wow.
of his stuff every now and then, and it holds up pretty well. But you could tell like again, it feels like a throwback to like
Mm,
a time like long gone of like the fact that they were able to make that movie work as well as it did in a
yeah.
climate that really wasn't really where those movies weren't really huge anymore, but they were able to make it work with a you have
Right.
a fun, engaging young cast. Again, it's kind of witty. Um,
Yeah,
you have like a
that's
lot of
cool.
up and coming talent in it that kind of like sells it a bit too.
Right.
But yeah, but I guess like what's crazy to me is the thing that there were so many of these movies coming out like 97, 98, 99, and then it was like and then a lot of them had to be in development around the same time.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, it just seems like American Pie was kind of like, yeah, okay, we are finally like within the same year,
Well,
like, all right, this we need something new, and this is new, and this is where we're gonna go.
yeah. It's so funny because I wanted to tell you, maybe you saw this, but let me find it right here. So, the original title for this movie on the script, hold on, let me find it. It was a really long title, and it was called. Oh, come on, where is it? Where is it? Okay, it was officially called Untitled Teenage Sex Comedy, which can be made for under $10 million, which studio readers will likely hate, but I think you will love. That's what the White brothers like. It was not called American Pie until a little later. So I thought that was so funny because, yeah, like it was riding the wave of teens controlling entertainment, and the
I like
budget,
in that, yeah, the budget,
know?
yeah, they threw everything in the title that was like any studio executive was like, all right, these movies are big, we can make them
And
cheap. That's all in the
honestly,
title.
and especially with inflation and everything, honestly, I'm shocked this movie could have even cost $10 million. I mean, most of them, weren't none of them were probably making $1 million. So like even that scene, like
Yeah,
you could have made this movie for far less. You could have made it for like 2 million and it still would have
yeah.
looked and seemed, basically the same. So yeah, just funny. But yeah, I do love
Yeah,
how well, that was apparently a really attention grabbing cover page. So there you go. That's
yeah.
what we got to do. Right.
And it's crazy to think that the first one was 10 million. I think we said by American Reunion it was
Yeah,
50,
you said
55 million
50.
dollar, but
Yeah.
budget. Like, so that has just to be like actor salaries just going up.
It
And
has to be, to
that's,
get people to come back. And yeah, for sure. Yeah.
that's crazy. All right, so I guess this is part of the show where we can score the movie. I'm trying to I'm curious to where you're gonna go because like I know like towards the end you were like you were saying like this is why like you don't necessarily like love the movie and you just like it
Right.
like so I am curious to see where you land on your score.
I forget. I always forget. Well, how should I do you? How do you like score?
So
do
we
you do
usually
1 out of
we
5 or
usually
1 out
do
of
the
10?
yeah we do like 1 out of 5 usually
Okay, 1 out of 5. Okay. Um. Okay, I'm gonna be like totally realistic. I think it's a fun movie. It's not perfect. Other movies that were from this time, I feel more close to. So I'm gonna go right down the middle and give it like a 3 out of 5. I think that's pretty fair. Definitely not
Yep.
bad in any way. But it's not like I'm like, oh man, like now I'm gonna think about those characters all night. Like I said, great chemistry, super fun. I would gladly see them again, but I'm not, you know, wondering what like Jim and Michelle are doing right now. You know what I mean? So I feel like somewhere around 3, maybe 3.5 out of 5. I think that's it for me. What about you?
All right. I think we're in the same range. I was gonna give it 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah.
If I win high, like, because I gave 10 Things higher, and I don't think I
Yeah.
actually think 10 Things is a better movie
Yeah.
overall. I actually think Can't Hardly Wait is a better movie overall too.
I
know-
agree. I think
people-
so too. Yeah. I think so
and I
too.
know that,
It's-
and I know they're different. Cruel Intentions is a better teen movie. I mean,
Oh,
very different
Cruel
teen movie,
Intentions
but
is
like,
a 5 out of 5, bitch.
Right.
but
very
yeah.
different movie, but I mean, I think what sells it the best is that the movie has a lot of heart, and I don't think that
Yeah.
it like I think it's interesting that it has polarizing reviews for how raunchy it was, but like what shines through too is that like that's there, but you do root for a lot of the characters. There is a lot of heart on top of all the like raunchy naughty stuff that's in it, and I think that shines through. All the actors are really good, they play off each other well. I agree with you though there. I mean, I don't necessarily like, hey, when I watch the sequels it's nice to see them again, but like once this was over, I honestly wasn't like, well, let me pop in like American Pie 2 real quick. I didn't think that.
Yeah.
You know, I probably wouldn't watch American Pie 2 unless I have to, like if it has
I want to ask
anniversary coming
you
up.
because I haven't seen the sequels in so long. How would you rank them? Do you remember? Like, because I remember liking American Pie 2, but I guess actually that's like the worst one. I feel like that one
I think
is
it
not
is
as
considered
loved.
So if I had to do it, it'd be American Pie, then Wedding, Reunion, then 2. I would bring 2 last.
Okay.
Only because like from what I remember and what I mean, I think I watched it like 5 or so years ago. So not too long ago where I don't remember. Like I just didn't like how it was great that they brought everyone back, but if you're not gonna utilize them the way you should utilize them, like you could tell that like they're just there because like, oh, it's the sequel, and like it's not necessarily fun to watch something pop in and out to do nothing. And this is actually more of a problem for the women in that movie than the dudes. I think that was the main issue I had with that second one. Like, there's some funny set pieces in it. There's some, but a lot of it feels like an immediate rehash of American Pie. There's certain like Stifler has like not a similar moment to the drinking come out of the cup, but he has another moment that's similar where he gets humiliated. Like there's all like, these different beats.
I just remember in
the
second one, the girls they want the girls to kiss, and then the girls are like, "No, we want you boys to kiss."
Kiss,
and I
kiss.
remember, it's like it's not even. I mean, it's funny, but it could have been better or funnier or
yeah.
like. I feel like Dude, Where's My Car? Speaking of Sean William Scott kissing a guy, I feel like their kiss is so great because like they go for it. They're like
They just
all
go
over
for
each
it,
other, which is
Yeah.
a shock. Whereas in American Pie 2, they're just like slowly like it's like, yeah, I guess I don't know. It's a little. It's not really that funny, then or now. You know what I mean? So
And he had a good run too, though. I know we talked about him a little bit. I loved him in Road Trip, even though it's like the same character, but still he has some funny stuff in it. But like I love
Sean
the
William
rundown.
Scott.
I love the rundown. I think the rundown
And
is probably
what an
like
again, sorry to be boy crazy, but what an absolute babe. Like by the rundown, like, oh my God, what a babe. I love him. I could whenever you want to talk about Sean William Scott, I'm happy to rewatch his movies and let's go down memory lane. Cause I miss him. I know every now and then he pops up in something. I even like Southland Tales, that wild movie he did with
I
The Rock
appreciate it
and
more
Sarah
now.
Michelle Gellar.
I appreciate
I
it
mean,
more now.
because
It's a
because
mess.
I saw
It's
it
a
and I was
lovely
like,
mess.
what a mess. But then there's a whole prequel like comic book that Richard Kelly wrote. So like, and I have it like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's just so. And Sean William Scott's so good in it. So I'm always a Sean stan for sure. So but yeah, I haven't seen the other American Pie sequels in so long. So I think one day I'll happily rewatch. But yeah, like we're saying, it's not like I want to like cancel my plans this week and just do a binge. I'll get there when I
Just
get
do a
there.
binge, yeah, and I'll
Yeah.
probably never watch the directed DVD. I haven't even seen like only the covers, guys. I
Yeah.
never even tried to watch them. I did look them up. Like Eugene Levy is like the consistent presence in some of them.
Good for him making that
probably
money.
a paycheck. Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah. But yeah, but still like a fun. I mean, it is cool that this kind of movie made as much money as it did. I mean, we talked about those other teen movies that we actually liked a little bit more. They were financially successful, but nowhere near as close.
Nowhere not like So
like
obviously
this,
sex sells,
yeah,
and
exactly.
And again, like because the summer before, There's Something About Mary was so huge that made so much money. So again, another good raunchy. I mean. Like some of that stuff was just so sexual. So yeah, it's just funny to kind of see like what inspired what, as each year goes by, But one thing I meant to say that will be my little last fun fact, and maybe you already know this, Gaius, but I read that as they started thinking about casting, the studio apparently was really pushing for Jonathan Taylor Thomas, which is so interesting because I could see that, but he's so wholesome. Like I
way
can't
too
imagine
wholesome.
him talking
voice of
like this
Simba?
at all. Also,
No.
Simba, I just feel like, yeah, he's probably like, Simba cannot be an American Pie. So they were really pushing him and really pushing a brand new, not very experienced yet, but famous mom. They were pushing Kate Hudson. But the directors and producers were like, let's like look at other people. So I could totally see Kate Hudson as like the Tara Reid or whatever.
Yeah, because she was around. Yeah, I forgot that it was in that age group. I always think about her being so beyond her years because even I know she plays young and Almost Famous, but that character feels so beyond.
I know,
her years
right? And that was only a year after this. So
that would have been interesting for sure.
Yeah, I thought that was fun.
Right.
It was those two names, and that's basically I think all I saw for like interesting little casting trivia. But yeah.
Oh, remember Chris Klein dated Katie Holmes for a hot minute? Forgot all about that during this time period.
I think about it every once in a while, and I love them together. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, Katie Holmes seems to be done with Jamie Foxx, right? They seem to have broken up, which is so interesting. But I don't know what's going on with Chris Klein. But like, I would love for them to get back together. I thought they were so friggin' cute. I thought they were a great.
Did she
couple
dump him for
then.
Tom Cruise?
I think so.
She like powered up and like,
and that's when like his star really started to kind of like fade. It's a shame,
he was
so good. He was in like
in
Rollerball,
Election, We Were Soldiers, Rollerball, Just Friends. Oh, he's in Here on Earth. I forgot about that movie with
oh my god,
Sobieski and
yes,
Josh
with
Hartnett.
Lily and Josh. I forgot he's in oh my god, Just Friends. I completely forgot he's in, I love Just Friends so much. Oh my god.
Well, if Josh Hartnett can have a Josh Hart assance, can Chris Klein have his? I mean, like
absolutely. I'm into it. And you know what? Actually, how funny. I think you're right. I think he actually is about to come back because he's in the new Fear Street movie that Netflix is doing. You know how they did that trilogy?
Oh yeah,
Chris
right, right.
Pine's in that, and I feel like I read he's in another new horror movie. So we might be having a little, I'm all about the late 90s resurgence. Josh, Brandy, now with her like new
Yeah,
horror movie, and
our movie.
coming in doing Cinderella again for the Descendants, which I'm not a
Yeah.
Descendants person. That's like obviously for kids, but I am so excited to watch her
Well,
as Cinderella again for
someone needs to
Disney.
send her a script for that. I know you did that Summer Legacy sequel that
I
she didn't know
know,
about, and I
right? She
was
said,
like,
"I didn't know about it. Call me."
I
Right?
was like, why, as the writer or co-writer, why would you make it a point to say I still know it's canon and not include her? I mean, because
know.
even though people don't like, hey, I mean, we've had fun with it when we covered it. I know
Yeah.
Jackson, it was a chore for Jackson, but we had
Oh.
fun with it. But like,
Oh, yeah.
but that character is a fan favorite in what some consider like a not great movie, a fun, not great movie.
Yeah.
And they
She's
want
one
her
of the
back. So
bright
like,
moments of that movie,
yeah,
and people forget she's one of the very few Black final girls,
the girls,
and
yeah, and she
she's
lives.
funny, and she's pretty damn good, I thought, and I still know. She screams well,
Yeah.
she had that fun chase throughout the hotel, so,
Yeah.
yeah, honestly, even if she just is, like, on FaceTime with Julie James or something, yeah, we gotta get, Carla back in,
Yeah.
whatever this is being called. I guess is it just called I Know What You Did Last
I
Summer?
know you did last summer, yeah, and I
Mm.
love when they had the cast, they had the official cast announcement on someone.
Yeah.
I think it was Variety put it on their socials on X and stuff. And this one, I forgot what the username was, and they're like, yeah, that's great, but if we don't get any Jennifer Love Hewitt, Freddie Prinze Jr. or Brandy, we don't want it. So like,
Yeah.
take it back. We
And
don't want it
honestly,
at
yeah.
all.
But honestly, that's so accurate because, like, I think fans of I Know, like us, it's always kind of a bummer that it's like, "Oh, we only got 2 with them." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
because then that 3rd one that no one wants to talk about, that was
yeah,
totally different direction. So it's like,
yeah,
yeah, like, whatever happened, you know? So,
yeah.
I'm super intrigued. I really wonder.
Like,
I just hope they have
Are Ray and
more.
Julie still together? Like, I mean, like, what would that
Yeah,
be? Like,
right?
yeah,
And,
yeah,
like, if Carla were to come back, how does that work? They probably don't all live in the same town, so I
yeah,
don't know, it's interesting. I'm so curious, but hopefully it'll be good because I think it'll be fun. I have a hunch that Ben Willis is not the killer, or if he is, he's
yeah,
got an accomplice. It's almost like, how he had his son in the second one. Now
yeah, yeah.
he's recruited someone or people, if he's even
Yeah.
still around, because Muse Watson's like 75.
He's up there, yeah.
Ben Willis always walked, but like that's still got to be a slow walk.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
very slow
down for
walk.
maybe like a teen accomplice, like he recruited someone. That's a little like Laurie Metcalf and Scream 2. Like I could be down with that. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Curious how they get it to work. I did like her previous, like, Do Revenge. I actually did watch it. It was actually pretty funny
Oh
and
yeah, I
witty.
still
So
need to
I
see
so
that. Thank you for reminding
so
me. I gotta watch
so I
that.
wonder, I hope that, I mean, I think this is a harder legacy sequel to do because there's not as enough. I mean, compared to Scream, like there's more
Right.
history with like beyond like just Sydney. You had Dewey and Gail and all these other that
Right.
made that kind of like them returning make sense.
Yeah.
But if they can
Well,
make it work,
what's so brilliant with Scream is like there's kind of always a reason for a sequel. Someone else is going to have a motive. Someone's
Yep.
connected somehow. Someone's a fan of now Sydney and Gail and their fame, or of the movies within so they really laid great, brilliant groundwork for,
Yeah.
these sequels. Whereas I know it's kind of like, well, you had the accident and the guy just keeps coming after you. Like there's only so much you can really do. So I kind of don't want the new teens to have an accident, but I almost feel like there's got to be some sort of something and they cover it up. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see, Yeah.
Definitely.
But either way, like I said, I'll be happy to see our returning
Yeah.
characters grown up and just check in on them because I like to do
Yeah.
that,
Because
Yeah.
they're growing up with us. That's the fun part
Mhm.
about bringing these people back, and
Yeah.
and that's and revisiting all these stories and movies. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Since your podcast is all about revisiting old movies, tell us what is coming up on your
Yeah.
podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, so on Release Date Rewind, I've been a little delayed because summer has been so crazy busy with all kinds of work and stuff. But let's see. I just released a Speed and True Lies episode and a Never Ending Story episode. So I have The Sixth Sense. And then in September, I'll give everyone the exclusive here on your show, Gaius. I'm probably going to do an episode about Friends, because every now and then I do talk about TV, because that's turning 30. And then I got to decide. I really love The River Wild with Meryl Streep, if you remember that, and Kevin Bacon.
I remember it. Yeah.
Great 90s thriller. Have you ever seen that one? Did you see that?
It's been so long. Did they remake it recently?
They did. I haven't seen that with Leighton Meester. I guess it's like a loose remake. Right. Yeah. So I'm curious, but oh my God. I mean, also because Meryl rarely does thrillers. So I might want to do that. We'll see. There's a few good September options. So yeah, but I have been doing around 2 episodes a month. I don't know. Pretty soon it might go down to just 1 because it's busy. But yeah, check out Release Date Rewind.
It's a hustle.
It's a hustle, especially with work, and I'm also a filmmaker, and getting pulled in all sorts of directions, casting and directing and producing. But yeah. So Release Date Rewind. Hit me up after you listen to some Back to the Blockbuster. Sometimes we cover same stuff, sometimes different. So, Gaius, I got to get you back on at some point, and Jackson finally needs to come on. So we'll have to talk.
Oh, that's
about
true. We got to get on. We got to get on together. Yeah,
yeah.
And
that'd be fun.
Yeah, we're struggling with September because I didn't know. I was looking at the list for September. I was there just didn't seem like there was a lot, or maybe I got to research a bit more and see if there's
especially
any big
October. Oh my God, October has so many that I'm like, man, I want to do so many, but it's just not possible.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
I mean, big ones, like for different decades. It's just crazy. So, yeah, 94, 2004, 84, big movies. So, yeah, pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you as always for coming on. I can talk to you all night about any movie. I think at this point,
I know it's wild.
Sorry for all the make it so easy.
Sorry for all the tangents, but
Oh no, that's the best part, man.
Late 90s, it's just I could write a whole essay on it. I mean, come on, right? So
definitely.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Gaius.
No problem. And then some stuff that we have coming up. We are very close to episode 200. We still don't know what we're gonna do for it yet. We've been talking about it, but and it's crazy because Jackson hasn't been there from the beginning, but he feels like he has. I think at this point he's been on longer than the 2 previous co-hosts.
Yeah, I think so.
It's very much his show too. So we're trying to figure out what will kind of work for both of us. So we're still doing that. We still have more anniversaries. I know we are bouncing around between July and August just based on scheduling. This is a July anniversary for American Pie. We still have your listeners pick with True Lies coming up as well. We'll be recording Inglourious Basterds, your other listeners pick for August tonight.
One of my faves. That's great.
And then we're doing Boyhood. That's Jackson's pick. I think next week for
fun.
August.
Classic.
And then we have we're going to be doing Tales of Horror again in September and October, where the show is all horror movies for the month of September and October. So you can probably come back for some of those.
Let me know.
Horror movies. We're trying to work out our list of horror movies that we want to cover because we're trying to figure out. All right, last year we picked a lot of mainstreamy stuff because it also coincided with anniversaries. But I think this year we're going to try it. We're going to mix those in too, but we're going to try to do a little bit more lesser known ones that maybe people haven't seen or heard about that can get more exposure.
Totally. Oh yeah,
so
that's always fun.
So we're looking forward to that. We're both very, very busy people, and we are trying to figure out the best way to do it. But so far it's a well-oiled machine. I mean, we're both insanely busy, as you know, from being busy too.
Yeah.
I don't know but it's great that we actually have episodes recorded that we haven't put out yet. So we're still ahead of the game without being feeling like we're behind. So that's always a good thing. So looking forward to that. Great. Looking forward to having you back on during some of that stuff too. I know you like scary movies from all decades. So
yeah, let me know. Keep me posted for sure.
Yep. And in the meantime, if you want to listen to Back to the Blockbuster, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods. Those are all great, but playlists, they are our podcast network, and they have an app as well to listen to shows. You can find it in the iOS store or in the Google Play Store if you're not special and don't have an iPhone and have a Samsung Galaxy phone. Please listen to us there. We also have a YouTube page that we are trying to build up as well, where you can actually watch us talk about all the stuff that you heard today. We kind of release episodes in bunches from playlists because they want to make sure the quality of the uploads are pretty good, so they don't want to do them all at once. So we have our next batch, and they're going to be uploaded next week. So you can also find us there by searching Back to the Blockbuster. Please subscribe if you haven't. And I believe that's it. Mark, once again, always a pleasure. And
Thank
I will talk to you
you.
again soon.
All right,
Peace
let's
out,
have some
guys.
pie. Bye.
A warm apple pie.
No.